to the hip hop, the hippie to the hippie to the hip hop, and you don't stop. But rockin' to the bang bang boogie, say up jump the boogie to the rhythm of the boogie to beat.
Welcome, Alex, to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you, and I hope the guests heard that when we started live streaming this.
Word.
So I really appreciate you again taking the time. And funny enough, before we even sat down in the chairs, you showed up, and we just started talking business.
That's what it always happens.
And you know this. I've been saying for years, people need to hear these conversations because it doesn't matter. I've been doing this 15 years as a freelancer, and then last almost 6.5 of it as a production company, and there's still so much for me to learn. And you were helping me level up just a few minutes ago, and I feel like these conversations need to be recorded and shared with people so we can all help each other level up. Kind of just be real, hear from real people who are in the money in the video business, not in the course selling business. You know what I mean? So
I get it.
I don't think, and this is all for free, so people don't have to go spend $1 to learn this info. So how have you been, first of all? I know we were supposed to have you a few weeks back, and you were stuck in a snowstorm or whatever.
Yeah, I went back to Maryland to visit family, and like the first time I was up there during the holidays in years, and we get snow, which is what my kids were praying. Well, my son was praying for. And he was like, "Thank God it snowed," because Florida kids, they've never seen snow before.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So they got their wish. They got their wish.
My kids do the same thing. They're just like, I want snow. And I'm like, I don't know if I want snow, but okay. So that's great. At least, the kids were happy. And I'm so glad you made it back. And now we have a chance to actually talk. How was your 2024?
I mean, honestly, and I'm going to just be totally transparent for people at home. My 2024 business-wise was probably the worst year I've had. Worst year I've had probably since 2014.
Which is crazy. And that's also crazy that you've been doing this long. What year did you start, roughly?
I mean, I've been in some form of media and entertainment all my adult life. Where it became my main source of income was back in 2011. I haven't had a job since 2010.
That's crazy to think about.
Was it 2010? It's been so long now, but yeah, I haven't had a job since 2011. April 2011 was the last time I walked out the doors of a corporate job, and I got full time into doing video production, full time main source of income in 2020 because I had no choice. Like it wasn't something that I was planning on. I was still in like the corporate events world mainly. That's what I went into in 2011 was the corporate events world. And I still do some of that work, but in 2020, when everything shut down, corporate events went away, I had my video production company on the side, and I sat at home and quietly lost my mind for about 3 months when the AV industry shut down. And then I said, okay, when the last check came in the mail, I was like, okay, I've got to figure something out. And we got to work.
And the rest is history. Funny enough, I think it was like we met on a Facebook group. So I was in Orlando from 2010, and then later in the years, I kind of left for a few years for Alabama. That's where I started my company, and obviously I was trying to just claw my way back to Orlando. I had one goal. I was like, I want to make this company successful. Oh, maybe 2 goals. And the second was somehow get back to Orlando. And as soon as, I used the pandemic as the way out, like most people, I was like, oh, I got to leave. So I think I remember it was like almost like first end of 2020 or whatever, I came back. And so during that time, I started my company in middle of nowhere, Alabama. There was barely any resources. I've talked about it on this podcast. One company that didn't respond back. So I had to learn everything on my own. And the only other resource I had was these Facebook groups, to see what other people are doing and what they're charging, what the deliverables look like. You know what I mean? I want to be, because I was never worried about my craft. I had done this long enough. I was more worried about what to charge, what the business side of it was. And obviously you were one of the more active ones in that group. Yeah. And then as soon as I came back and I knew you were local, I hit you up. Do you remember anything about that?
We met at Austin's Coffee and we just chopped it up for a good, I think we were supposed to meet for like 30 minutes and we ended up being there for like 2 hours. Just just having a good old time.
And I think I remember hiring you also for a gig. So a gig popped up, which was like green screen or something. That was our first project.
Yeah.
Having never worked together, but like I said, I knew your skills. I'd seen your work. I was like, hey, Alex, I would really like a DP. And then that's how you introduced
How
me
did
to
that
Quint.
project come out anyway?
I have no idea. Okay. Let me say that. Here's why. And funny enough, I was back in the day, so a lot of things changed since then. So that was my day when I was like, oh, we are only a production company, right? We had a base rate that came with 4 crew members, including me. I didn't do individual DP work at all then. So anyway, they called me and I was like, oh yeah, that's our base rate, 4 crew members or whatever. Plus you're gonna need a producer / script supervisor because it was scripted. And they wanted us to shoot on green screen and 20 by 20. So I had to go rent a 20 by 20 green screen. Who has that? I mean, most I have is, 12 by 12 or whatever. Anyway, no, the project, I think we shot incredible. We shot at C-Log 2, C70s or whatever. I think their post-production was not the type of money they spent
so you
on
didn't
it.
do the post-production?
No. So that was one of my first few ones where I was like, okay, as long as you hire my crew. Normally, I would be like, oh, we have to do post. But that came from an agency. So with agency, they do their post. So it was an agency that was hired by the client, and then I was subbing for that agency, essentially.
Gotcha.
So when we showed up, we were never going to do post. And I was always worried because when you do green screen, I mean, sure, nowadays we have AI matting and all that, but not a few years ago. I think it was at beginning of 2021.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, when I looked the first time up, I don't normally care about stuff that we're not editing, but I wanted to look. I looked it up back, like I said, 3 years ago or whatever, 4 years ago, and I was like, I don't want to be associated with this post. We can show
I've had those jobs.
Yeah, I was like,
I've had those
I was
jobs.
like, I will show the pre one, and not saying like I don't know what budget they had, what timeline they had, so I don't want to say anything against the agency, but yeah,
sometimes when you gotta hand off the footage, you don't want anybody to know.
Yeah, when I looked, I was like, this was supposed to look like the Matrix. This does not look like, I mean, maybe the extra green is Matrix, but no. So that was one of those where I was like, oh, okay, I'm never gonna show the edited of this.
Yeah.
It'll be the unedited of it. But it was incredible to hang out with you. I think that's where I met Quentin.
Yep.
We had to fire a guy on set. I don't know if you remember that. Julie was there. I think we had a good,
it was a good
band
day.
of people together. And very eventful, very fun. Do you remember anything? I don't know if that shoot or in general working with me the first time.
I mean, it was just a good experience. I mean, and it was fun to be on somebody else's set. I'm just so used to doing my own thing, which I think a lot of us are, and doing smaller jobs that, being on a bigger production, a bigger set, not having to be the one who's worrying about all the details, and it's like, hey, work the camera.
Yeah.
It's like, I can do that.
Yeah. And it was so good, and that's what I love is having talented DP when I'm directing, because like you said, you're worrying about it so much, and like I said, including firing a guy that was so crazy to me. But back then, even a little cough people would get. And it was a client's request. So somebody in our team was coughing a little bit, and they confirmed to us before production started that they didn't have COVID or anything. But the client was like, as soon as they heard a cough, they were like, we don't feel comfortable having that person said, and that's okay. You have to respect the client's wishes. I was like, okay, but that also meant my production budget, and this is what I'm saying, and I would love to talk later about money more, but like lessons learned, because I build total like already. I billed the client, but now we went over, so now I gotta pay you guys. You have to work extra, you and Quentin, who have to stay back, and that means I had to pay you guys extra. But the production company didn't get to pay me extra, so they had me. I said production, the agency, they had me fire the guy, but we had to not pick up his job, so I had to not only have you guys stay late and work extra, and I lost money on all that overtime. So maybe sometimes I'm like, I like the one amount, right? Hey, here's your total, but then it can have backfire when circumstances like that happen, because I can't go back to the client and rebuild them because.
Well, you actually can if that's in your terms.
Yeah.
Because it just depends on how you set the terms of the billing. Because a lot of people, whether you give them a flat rate, whether you give them a day rate, with the stipulation that, hey, we charge, if we go over this amount of time, then we're going to bill you hourly for overtime. There's all sorts of different ways that you can structure the billing so that you don't get screwed over on that. There's even ways that you can, in that situation where you're having to let somebody go because of the client's request, I wouldn't do this, but there's also ways that you can structure it to show extra concern for the client and benefit the client, where it's like, hey, you could structure it so that, hey, if the job doesn't take this amount of hours, we bill you less because we weren't there as long. I know a lot of people don't like that, but you can do that. Yeah. Or you can do it where, hey, if we got to bring on an extra person, it's going to be because, what was originally stated, it goes beyond that scope, then it's going to be this price. There's all sorts of ways that you can set up your pricing structure so that you don't get screwed.
Yeah, no,
and then
absolutely.
You can also have contingencies in your contract where it's like, hey, if you make this decision, it's going to cost you X. If we make that decision, it's going to cost us X, or you're going to be protected against being billed extra. Like, there's all sorts of ways that you can do it.
And that's a very good point you bring up. And for me, it's like all that is in the contract, because my contract's been the same, like, and they had signed it, obviously. My thing was, and again, I completely agree with you. Could have charged them extra. But it was COVID times, and it was a COVID-related situation. Not that, again, the guy had COVID. It was just, again, I don't know. I don't want to speak on his medical history. He said he didn't. He tested it, but we didn't know until that morning. She had told us up front, But the other thing being is the client was not comfortable, and I'm like, this is COVID times. So, it wasn't normally, yeah. So I'm like, if we have to let him go, we have to let him go, and I still paid him full rate and all that, of course, I'm not going to dock his pay, even though we suffered. So it was kind of like, do I want to bring up a COVID thing, like, hey, due to COVID, we had to let this guy go. And I'm like, then I don't know who takes the liability, because at the end of the day, the guy didn't tell me that he was going to call, like, he was already feeling that before he showed up. It happened on set. It happened.
Yeah, I feel like in that circumstance, specifically because of the time that you were in, I feel like it was the right decision to swallow it.
Yeah,
but
normally, no, you're right. Yeah,
but normally, the client's got to pay for that because it was their decision. But like, because of the time, because of the circumstance, the context of the situation, it was probably the right decision to just.
And exactly. And I would hope that that wouldn't fly today, but also people wouldn't be that freaked out over a few coughs.
I mean, I still don't recommend.
I don't still recommend anyone showing up on set like sick anyway. Like, just if you know it, it's one thing that happens on set, but if you already know it, just let the production know. I would rather be pre-planning for an out or a change or something than doing it later. But
right, because that's not fair to the other people on the crew. Like, if you show up and you're sick and you're working, and then other people get sick, that affects their ability to.
Because even if
income.
It's not COVID, we could still get other cough or whatever, or common cold, whatever you have. We don't want that, and because we're working professionals, we don't want to lose working days. Because
we don't need these sets being like elementary school germ factories.
Yeah. So now I completely understand, like, you need the project or whatever, but trust me, like, I didn't hire that guy again, so it's kind of like that. It wasn't worth something showing up.
Yeah.
I'd rather you've been upfront, like, hey, this is how I'm feeling, blah, blah, blah. What do you think? Leave it on the production. Because I would have normally been like, hey, why don't you stay home? Let me call Alex or somebody else on the crew and see if they have somebody else that can come. And I'm sure we would have figured it out. Because I was also new. I didn't have a network back here. So anything else you remember from that shoot? It was pretty fun. It's been a while, so I get it. But all I remember is us just having so much fun on set.
Yeah, and, it was fun. I liked working with you. Being able to get some money in my homie's pocket, Quentin, by hooking you up with him, and so that's all. That's what it's about to me. Is being able to make money and help other people get money in their pocket.
Yeah, and then Quentin and I became friends. It's so crazy. Like I said, we would have never met if it wasn't. And he told the story how he met you on this podcast. But like I said, I mean, that's how you build your network, right? You meet with different people. you be on different sets. And what's crazy is, and I've told that story, so I won't go into that, but like how I ended up pigeonholing for a while Quentin into being the audio guy because he was just helping us do audio. I didn't know that. I was like, I need a local audio guy. I didn't have that big of a network. Like I said, I'd just come back. And obviously Quentin came out. He did great. So I'm like, oh, good audio guy. So a few gigs after
Quentin's
that,
not an
I
audio
hired
guy.
him as an audio guy, and he did fine. So I never even once and we weren't friends at the beginning, right? We were just working. So I'm like, I'm like, oh, good audio guy. And then I come to find out he's like, oh, I'm a camera guy. I'm the audio, just doing audio as a side thing because he knows about with live streaming. You guys we learn everything. So anyway. And I was like, oh, really? I pigeonholed you? I would have never known. So I was like, okay, let me bring you now as a camera guy or whatever, right? And then I learned the whole thing about AV. And I'm like, come on, we have way more common interests than we talk about. And same thing with you. Initially, we met doing DP and, this type of work. But then when I find out, going back to it, for a decade, you were doing AV work, which, like I said, it was part of what kept me going through the pandemic was tons and tons of live streaming. So how did you get into AV work? And obviously, clearly paid the bills for a long time.
I got into AV work by accident, sort of. So I went to Full Sail. A lot of you probably know about Full Sail. And when I came out, I wanted to get into the news. What I did, because I went to Full Sail for audio, ironically enough. But what I didn't know is that like full-time sound positions in the news industry had been dying off. Luckily, I was able to get a job at Channel 13, which is a local cable news station in Orlando. And I was doing audio there, but I was at the point where I hated my life because the environment just sucked. Yeah. And finding out that audio was kind of a dying thing in the industry, it kind of like also soured me. And I was looking for another full-time job. I ended up applying to an AV company for a full-time job, not really knowing what it was. I just saw that they had audio as a position, and I'm like, okay. Yeah. And they didn't hire me full-time, but they hired me as a part-timer, which is what they call their freelancers. And that was my introduction to AV. The first job they sent me out on was setting up for some, conference late at night, had to go out, set up screens and, run wires and all that stuff. That was my first exposure to AV. And when I saw what it was, and I started talking to other people who were working there and started finding out what the money was like and what you could possibly make. And, I started trying to get on with more companies and luckily, somebody, when I was asking questions, a guy just took me aside and was like, here, take out a piece of paper, write down these names. He's like, here, write down these names, phone numbers, hit these companies up. And that was the start of me freelancing in AV. Was a guy was just, generous enough to like give me a list of names and be like, call these companies, try to get on. And
shout out to that guy.
Off to the races, yeah.
Because that's the type of people we need in the industry, not the gatekeeper kind.
Yeah, a lot of people have that scarcity mindset where they think, oh, if I give this guy a leg up, he's going to take my clients. I'm like, the only way somebody is going to take your clients is if you F up.
Yeah.
If you don't give the service you're supposed to
give.
And
if you're that easily replaced, then, you need to work on yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like, so that's always been my attitude. If I lose a client, if I get replaced, it's because I did something wrong, not because somebody, I mean, now there is politics. There is, people, like I've had people try to ruin my career. So there is
there's somebody who doesn't like you. What?
Not everybody's a good judge of character.
Wow, that's a new one. I've never met anyone who had anything bad so far. I mean, in the 3-4 years I've known you, anyone who said anything bad about you?
Because I'm generally a nice guy, but like I fully recognize that I have my quirks, and there are people who either were, like me and you, we meet and we're instantly gonna gel, or there's people who are gonna be like, I don't know about that guy, and I'm okay with that because that means the people who are around me are usually people that I can trust.
And no, I completely agree with you. There are always gonna be people. We're humans. Raised under different circumstances. At the end of the day, we're same, but we're different. And you never know who you're gonna gel with, who you're gonna like, and at the end of the day, you also want to find people who motivate you. My biggest thing is I could have done this long time ago. I didn't have the guidance, the mentorship around me to tell me, Whipple, why aren't you starting a production company? Why aren't you making this bigger than yourself? Right? I was just so like, I just want to be on set, and I
Hmm.
would take whatever just to be on set. And then that's why I had to have a job on the side to pay the real bills. And now that I think about which, I mean, it had to happen the way it
And I
did.
mean,
I'm not going to change
the other
anything,
side of
but
the
yeah.
coin is not everybody's built to start a production
Yeah.
company. Some people are perfectly happy being freelancers, and that's okay. And you can have a long, productive, active career
Hmm.
just being a freelancer. You don't have to start a company because and I mean, you can start a one person company and also be fine
Yeah.
and operate as a production company, get bigger clients. I mean, to be honest, that's most of what you do is
Yeah.
you're mostly a one man operation, but you've grown to have a significant amount of revenue
Thank you.
and a significant
But to be
level
real,
of clients.
yes, you're absolutely right. I do realize the company is mostly me, but I don't want to take away from all the people like we just met, Julie, who keep me, sane and who keep like my workflow separate. 'Cause so I do have, post production handled by her, and then the other freelancers that we've hired. But they almost get full time work, and then an animation department. But now, yes, I do work with a lot of freelancers on the shooting side. But you're right. Yes, I am. The company is just basically me. But I don't want to take away from all the people that helped me. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that either.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think more guys who are freelancers but looking for ways to level up and scale their careers need to be open to the idea of hiring help.
Hmm.
A lot of guys are stuck in the mindset of I have to do everything myself,
Hmm.
and that can be a fast recipe for burnout depending on what you're doing.
No, you're absolutely right. As long as you do what you like and you're passionate about it and you don't give up, you'll find success. And if that is that, hey, I just want to be a DP or a freelancer or whatever you want to be, absolutely go for it. Because, like you said, I completely agree. This production owner, company owner life is not for everyone. It's long days, long nights, very little sleep. Sometimes weeks away from family. It's not for everyone. But if you again give it your 100%, just like anything, there's a lot of potential for revenue and success. So it's kind of like, as long as you're willing to put in, you can find, it'll give you the outcome if that's what you desire. And at the end of the day, I've had people here who are just single one person people, maybe with an awesome pocket making six figures too. So if that's the route you want to go with, then that's the route you go with. And that's what I love is just conversations with people who are trying to make a living doing video, but completely different paths, right?
Yeah.
And still finding success because it doesn't have to be a linear path. Like, hey, do this.
I don't think success is ever
Yeah.
a linear path.
No, but I am happy to like share at least everything I learned and I did. So if somebody wants, I don't know if it'll work if you 100% copy me, but I'm happy if you want to. I'm happy to share because I don't have that scarcity mindset. I don't care if you copy
and
me.
that's
100%.
how I am with people. I'm an open book. Like working with Quentin, working with Ben over the years, I've always tried to put them on game. Show them things that I've learned, tell them things that I
Mhm.
learned. I mean, even if they want to look at the invoices and see how I'm charging, like I don't care, like because either you're gonna want to work with me or you're not gonna want to work with me, and like I said, if I lose a client, it's because I messed up.
Yeah, just sharing information doesn't make you lose a client. Rather, they like you. I was just hanging out with a client technically. But as soon as I told them of the podcast, they were so excited. They were like, "What? We want to watch it and stuff like that." Because they get intrigued and they want to know. So what I'm saying is, it's the relationship that you build, and you go
Mhm.
do a shoot, and then you hang out and have dinners after. Or those are the good clients. They're not going to replace you. And again, if you're that easily
See, I
replaceable.
need to learn that level of relationship building because I don't think I've I don't think I've ever like just hung out with a
Oh, really?
client.
Dude, I gotta show you footage than what I recorded. The client, I guess client's employee would be the right way, but my client, I guess the whole company is my client. But like our clients to share. But funny enough, he was literally had sparklers in a restaurant going. Yeah, they went nuts. But that's the fun about it. That's what I'm saying. Like people need to, just have fun and be chill and build relationships. And now, not all clients do that. Let me
Right.
be real. But sometimes it can be the backfired. I've been invited. That's what I was telling them. They were like, "Oh, I hope you don't mind coming." I was like, "No, you guys are great. I love coming out to dinners with you." I've been stuck in situations where a CEO will invite you, and then now you're in a freaking dinner with these C-suite people, and it's so boring. It's like, what am I doing here? Like, I'd rather just not eat.
But sometimes,
Yeah.
but one thing that AV has taught me is that sometimes you just need to show up.
Yeah.
Like, because one big mistake that I made early on in AV is that I never tried to hang out with people. I never, like, when people would after the after a show day would want to go out to dinner or to go to the bar or hang out. Like, I would never do that.
Yeah, that will backfire.
And it's not that was bad, but that's where a lot of people build relationships and bonds, where like they will recommend you to other companies. If somebody says to them, "Hey, I need this person I need a person for such and such," or you're already booked for a show and they say, "Hey, we also need somebody who does this. Do you know anybody?" The people that they hung out with at the bar or that they had a good time with on the last show, those are the people they're thinking about. And because I didn't do that, like I really stayed to myself a lot, I'm not the person that they're thinking of to get those calls.
No, and I completely get that. That's why I like to hire people who are more extroverts, because and plus these are the type of people that I would be more comfortable with. So I don't mind hanging out, because same thing. I'm an introvert. Especially if it's not video people, I don't want to hang out with them. And plus, I don't drink, so I tend to. Here's my technique: if somebody was to copy it, see, I don't want to drink. I don't like drinking. I don't like hanging out and just doing random. No, I'll get one. I'll take whatever. So I wait what they order. They're like, "Give me a Heineken," whatever they order. I'm like, just give me one of those, and then I'll just sip that throughout the whole time. While they have had 6, I'm still on that first one. That was, I'm not really drinking, but I'm not also the outcast, because you also don't want to be, to me, if like I'm there and I'm like, "Oh, I'm not gonna drink," then they're not gonna hang out with you. A lot of times it's like, "Hey, do you want to grab a drink?" So I don't want to go there and personally be ordering like a water or whatever. So what I do is just give me one of whatever they get, and then I'm just gonna slow it down. I'm just not gonna drink it like normally. I'm just take a sip every 10 minutes or whatever. So that way it's like I'm not actually not drinking, but I'm also not really drinking.
Yeah.
And I think it ends up working well, because again, you're in that conversation, they're in their zone, they feel comfortable, and you're absolutely right. That's how you build some of the better relationships, especially with people that are on par, meaning it may not always be like the owner or whatever. It may be the other people, but that makes it easier to work there, because you're good relationship, you like each other. Why wouldn't you want to do that? Same mindset. But then also, like you said, when they need someone or they need to recommend someone, who are they going to recommend? You, right? So it's a win-win for everyone, and it's a good time. Like, otherwise I would have been in my room miserable, whatever, watching some other freaking video content about equipment that I don't need to watch. So I don't know. To me, that's the technique that it's always worked for me, and that's kind of what I stick to. Just drink whatever they're drinking, just drink it way, way, way slow. So that was, you're not like an outcast, or you're not just, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and it's the same thing in the music industry too, because I have a history in the music industry, and I have friends who are like signed to record labels and stuff, and they told me like sometimes just the way you get the opportunity is just being there. Like sometimes it's just because you were there, and if you weren't there, then you missed the chance.
Yeah, and it's the same what we teach, like talk when we work direct with clients. We tell them the same thing, right? Like when we're trying to help them with their video strategy, it's like, hey, people buy from people they know, like, and trust. Same thing with video people. If you're just trying to get hired by your friend or whoever, or get a recommendation, they're gonna recommend. Guess what? If somebody calls me and says, "Hey, Whipple, do you want to come do this shoot?" and I'm like, "Nah, I'm not available." Who am I gonna recommend? I'm gonna recommend the people I trust, because my name goes with it, right? I'm not gonna go recommend somebody I just met, because I don't know their skill, I don't know their result. I know Alex, so I'm like, okay, I know Alex can do a good job. I'm gonna recommend you and the few other people that I work with, where I'm like, okay, I know what they bring, not some random person or somebody I barely met, like, let's say a couple of times. That's just the truth. So the only way you can be in that zone with people is by being in that zone. So just make an effort, right? Just talk. it doesn't hurt. And plus, it's fun. Usually, you're like-minded in the video industry. That should be easy for somebody who's trying to do this, right?
Should be.
Yeah, should be. I mean, otherwise, you need to find better people that you connect with. And if you're not connecting with anyone, then that's where, to me, is a mirror moment, right? You need to go reflect in the mirror and see, why are people in the industry not liking me, or why they not want to be friends with me, or whatever.
A lot of people aren't self-aware enough to do that reflection.
Well, that's why this is here. Maybe they're listening to this and going, look, if my thing is networking is easy, just call. Tell me this: if somebody reached out to you from the group chat and just said, "Hey, Alex, would love to grab a coffee," what would your response be if you're free?
Okay.
There you go. That's what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is, reach out. Not everyone will say yes, but a lot of good people will. And there's your network. If most people are saying no, that's when you go in the mirror and you see what's happening. Why is everyone saying no to me? Because at that point, it's a self-reflecting thing, and see, am I bringing some bad energy or whatever? I don't know. There has to be a reason, is what I'm saying. Why? If everyone's telling you no, then yeah, that's different. One person, no, not much.
Yeah, but I still think a lot of people, just don't have that level of self-awareness or that level of maturity to be able to say it. I think we can do that because we've been through some things.
Yeah.
I mean, even like going back to AV, like I had to learn some hard lessons. Like there was like a time I got kicked off a show and things like that.
I want to know that story.
I'm still not sure. I'm still not 100% sure. Like,
but you have some idea.
Well, the project manager on that show, I had worked with him on a previous show like a year or something before, and we had bumped heads because I was the video engineer and I was trying to problem solve an issue with the LED wall, and he was insistent that the signal run to the LED wall one way when there was the way that I had wanted to do it from the beginning. I knew we wouldn't have had that problem. And so I'm jumping through hoops to do it the way that he wants. And finally I got to a point where I was so frustrated because he kept coming to me and being like, why isn't this fixed? Why is this? And like, because I knew that the way that I wanted to do it would work without the issue, I finally lost it. It was like, if we had just done it the way that I wanted to from the beginning, this wouldn't have happened.
Oh yeah. And
we finally ended up having to go with my way, but he was so insistent that, I won't, and he had a British accent, which made it even worse. He's like, I want to do it the proper way. Your proper way doesn't work, bro.
Yeah.
Or the signal gets there, but we're getting errors in the signal. And it's because you're being insistent on this way when this alternative method of getting the signal there doesn't have these issues.
Yeah. And dinosaurs, basically, who don't want to adapt.
Well, he was a young dude, but
he
was just, but he was like, I don't know for sure. I heard he was like one of the big wigs in the company's sons, and which is probably why he was a project manager at so young. But saying like, I want to do it the proper way. It's like, there's no, like there isn't one way, bro. Like there was multiple ways to get signal to that wall, but the one that you chose sucked.
Yeah. Because and it didn't work.
Because we kept getting like little distortions in the signal. And I did everything I could to stick with the signal chain that he wanted, and it just wasn't working. And finally we ended up going with my way because we just needed to get it done and not have these errors. But I think that left a bad taste in his mouth. And it was just like,
I get that.
I tried to tell him, but he ended up being the project manager on this really big show for Google that I was on, which I had been on the year before. Nothing had gone wrong. Like everything had gone right. And this one, like, I still don't, I think just, I don't know whether the tension was really high or something, but it was like there were multiple crews doing multiple things, and like I kind of bumped heads with one of the other crews that were on the show about how a certain piece of equipment that was in the room that I was teching was set up, because they were coming around setting this one piece of equipment and then I'm running like everything else, but I had to connect to and oversee this other piece of gear during the show. And I told him like, yo, can y'all, like, I've got it working with everything else. Can y'all not change this one setting in here when you come in? And they kept doing it. So like every time they came in the room, I would lose control of the device remotely because I
Mhm.
wanted to have remote control of the device just in case something happened during the
Mhm.
show. I wanted to be able to not have to come out from backstage to be able to
Mhm.
fix it. Um, and every time that and I don't remember whether it was I went to them or I went to a supervisor. I was like, "Yo, can you please tell these guys to stop changing this one thing? Like, I know they're doing their thing, but like every time they come in, I lose control of this device. I have everything else working. Can you please just like
Mhm.
tell them not?"
And
Uh,
they
And
just
but then another dude, like there was another switcher that I had just finished setting up, and this one guy who was going around, and this was another guy who I had worked with previously, and I
Mhm.
thought that we had jived okay on the previous job I had been on with this dude. Um, I had just finished setting up this switcher, hooking everything up, which was a pain because of where it was positioned,
Mhm.
and like I just crawled out from under the table, just finished getting it set. He walks in, he's like, "Hey, they want us to do this thing this way with the switcher now," and I'm like, "Oh, well, that's a pain," and he just flipped out on me,
Uh,
and like just from
they
that,
he probably may have heard the other conversation because that just doesn't make sense otherwise.
well,
Yeah.
it wasn't the British
Yeah.
dude, it was
Uh,
somebody else, but like he just like started going off on me about and I'm like, dude, I didn't say I wouldn't do it. I just said it was annoying to have to change it when I just finished hooking this thing up. And he stomps out. And like I had an assistant, this was out in Cali,
yeah.
this show was, and I had a local assistant, like from the local union, was there being like my helper.
Mhm.
And I turned to him and I go, "Do you understand what just happened there?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "No. What was that about?" And I'm just like, I was like,
Yeah.
"Ah."
Uh-huh.
And the next thing I know, like an hour or two later, I'm kicked off the show.
Well, yeah, so I think it was just all of it together maybe because like you said he had a bad experience from the last one even though it's his own fault, and maybe people talked or whatever. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
guess
I
so.
mean, we're just making assumptions at this point, but that's I'm so glad you tell this story because people can then hear what happens. There is a lot of politics on set, and here's the thing, what I've learned: it doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. If
Mhm.
you're the only one that's, even though like I say you were probably right, but if everyone's like, "Oh, Alex is just telling us we're wrong," they were probably
Yeah.
then it's like, "Oh, here's a common thread." Then as a leader, they would have probably eliminated the common thread, not maybe not realizing that what you were trying to say was just helping the production, but because everyone had the one name on their mind, which is Alex, and plus,
Yeah. And
yeah.
that's when I adopted the policy of and that's when I adopted the policy of just give them what they want.
Mhm.
And because I used to want to do things the best way,
Mhm.
and I would go out and advocate for doing things the best way, and after that I just stopped because it's
Mhm.
like people don't want to do things the best way, or they don't want to spend the money, they want to cut corners. And my policy now is like, I will tell you once
Mhm.
that what you are telling me to do is either a bad idea or that there's a better way to do it,
Mhm.
and after that I'm done.
Yeah.
Like after
That's
that
very smart.
I will do it the way that you told me to do it. Like I will say it the one time to cover my ass,
Mhm.
so that it's on record or somebody hears that I said, "Hey, this isn't a good idea because of
Mhm.
XYZ." Like
Yeah.
I will do it, but it's not a good idea.
Mhm.
Or, okay, I can do it this way, but there's a better way to do it. This is what the
Mhm.
better way is. Which one do you want me to do? And then I'll do it whichever way that they insist on doing it. But like after I say it once, I'm quiet.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's their production. No, and that's what I don't want anyone to get turned away from AV industry. Quentin was here too, who has also worked just like you on the AV side, and we talked about, I think, how incredible AV can be for somebody who's new, who doesn't have gear. With zero investment, you can
Hmm.
go in and start making good day rates. Obviously, you have to learn what you're doing. Hopefully, somebody can take you under the wing and show you, but you can be a stagehand, you can be a camera operator,
Right.
slowly, move your.
Quentin was a special case because he already had a skill set
Yeah.
that let him walk in the door making good money.
Exactly.
And I hooked him up.
Well, of course, that's what I'm saying. You need somebody to hook you up, and then you need, and then that's networking. But you can make money tomorrow. You know what I mean? Without any
Yeah.
investment, you don't have to go buy those cameras. You don't have to go buy those cables. The company will bring it. But here's the other side of it, which is why I'm like, I get all those instances. As somebody who does a lot of conferences and a lot of live streaming, I have to deal with AV companies, which tend to be, I say that, only a few. Most of them, are monopolies pretty much. But the AV companies, either way that I deal with, it's a pain. Like I've been on conference, the most recent one, 3 days. Literally every morning we had the same technical issue. So I'm coming out resolving the same technical issue with audio. I'm like, I don't understand. And the last day they just had 2 XLR cables there. I'm like, which one is it? And they're like, oh, it's the same signal. No, it's not. Then why do I have 2 cables? So here I am again, technical troubleshooting. I'm like, guys, this is a day 3, last day. We should have figured this out by now. Client is paying you to send the signal to me, right? Like, get this right. Anyway, but dealing with AV companies can be a pain because I get it, day 1 issues, but like, why are we having the exact same issue every morning in day 2 and day 3?
Some companies are just like that.
Yeah, and so at that point, you just go, like, I could, like I said, go butt heads with them. I'm just like, no, I'm working. And then the other thing was I brought a decimator, I need an extra decimator or some kind of converter, HDR, HDMI, whatever. And they didn't have one. I'm like, what kind of AV company are you that you cannot, like, you don't even have even a cheaper one? I get it. Like, you don't want to give me the good stuff. I get it. And I was like, I have so many decimators. I could have just grabbed one. But, I didn't think I would need 2 because, change. Obviously, things change. That's okay. And, it's not like I'm home. I could go back or to go back to the van and grab one. I'm out in freaking California. So I can't really change things. Anyway, like I said, so having to deal with AV companies all the time, it's not a best experience. Like that guy at least he made it look like he was doing an effort, the boss. He literally was like, oh yeah, I'm going to go to this room. I'm going to go to this room. I say he went around this 1,800 person conference and could not find one decimator or converter or something. And I was like, it doesn't make sense.
Converters, unfortunately, are one of the things that sometimes you get shortchanged on.
Anyway, but that's
it's
how
just
it
one
is,
of those things.
So
I used to, as a video engineer, I used to carry around a bunch of converters in my case because that's kind of like what I was taught, and a lot of video engineers still do that. But I got sick of saving shows. But because of what I brought in my box, I got sick of bringing extra.
They should have extras.
Like just carrying stuff through the airport and having to check an extra bag. It just got tiring, and so now I bring a backpack and that's it. Like I don't bring a work case, which a lot of people still do. And like, more power to you. And I mean, it's worth the investment if you're full time in AV, you're full time as an audio engineer, video engineer. You develop your own little workflows and tricks and just habits of what you like to be able to have on hand to use, and you start bringing the work box just so you have the stuff that you want. But I got sick of saving shows. I got sick of the extra weight and I'm done.
No, I completely get it. Like I said, it's a good avenue, so I don't want to discount it. But having somebody, like I said, on my side, like I said, I'm not an AV guy. You and Quentin would be my go-tos if somebody came for AV. My experience is just dealing with them as a production company, which is not the greatest. People individually are nice. Let me be real. People individually are very nice. It's overall, as an industry, they're very hard to work with. They're very dated. Their techniques are very dated. It is just what it is.
It's a industry where there's a lot of, well, this is how we've always done it, and so it's a struggle to get them to change their ways or to become more modern, unless that's been like their MO from the beginning of always wanting to be on the cutting edge, of always wanting to have the latest and greatest. Otherwise, it's, oh, that still works. Let's rent it out, even though that's something that nobody should be using anymore. And
that's just what it is, right? So coming back to it, you did that. You did great. You made a great living from doing AV stuff. But pandemic hits. Obviously, we all know. Conference industry, AV industry is pretty much dead in the water at that point.
Super dead.
So you obviously leaned to your production company, which you already had it set up. What did you do? How did you get clients?
Honestly, it was just one client called me one day, and it was just like and it seemed that just started the ball rolling. It was a client that I worked with before, a wonderful man by the name of Simon T. Bailey. And he wanted some more videos. And the funny thing about Simon, and one of the reasons I am grateful to God for Simon T. Bailey, he is a blessing. Because the first time that I met Simon was when I was shooting a podcast for a friend of mine for free, Lorena Costa, and she turns to him and she's like, "Simon, don't you do videos?" And he's like, "Yeah." It's like, "You need to work with Alex." And so he called me up. He hired me to shoot some videos for him. I think the first job that I did for him, I charged him $500. I thought that was the only time I was ever gonna see him.
Yeah.
I made more than 50 grand doing stuff for Simon T. Bailey.
Look at that. Look at that.
So,
You never know. A little shout out can lead to 50 grand. That's crazy.
yeah. And I mean, that was over the course of several years. Like,
Yeah, but still,
I've done stuff with Simon as recently as last year. Was it last year? Yeah, it was last year because that was during the summer that we did that. Yeah, so as recently as last year, I've done work with Simon.
And look at that. It's all about, building those relationships and keeping the clients over the years. The revenue keeps coming in. And 50 obviously over the years, but times, I don't know, 20, and that could become, really good.
Well, there was one year where there was one great year where it was like 30 grand off of Simon because he had he had licensed the TV show to a cable network, and we were his go-to solution to get the show done.
Look at that. So, did you do anything else, outreach or any other way to find clients, or were they just coming in because you've been doing this so long?
That is a great question, and I wish I had a great answer for you. I know it's been a little bit of different things. So some word of mouth, some networking, like literally going out to networking events. Like I think my very first video client that I landed on my own was from going out to networking events. Actually, the first few was from going to like the in-person networking events. And then word of mouth, referrals like Lorena with Simon, doing social media, LinkedIn, Instagram has gotten me some. Maybe even Facebook has gotten me a little bit. Now I hate Facebook, so I don't like being on the platform. It's gotten so messy. Like I just don't like being on the platform. But I think I've even gotten some clients through Facebook. But what's the website? Not Nextdoor.
Upwork or
not Upwork.
Thumbtack.
I actually made a good amount of money through Thumbtack one year.
Look at that.
And I actually want to get back on Thumbtack because I made such a good amount of money through Thumbtack. But the thing that I don't like about Thumbtack is that they make you pay just for leads. And that's why I had
terrible leads.
Right. And so when you're setting up your profile, that could be something else we get into. Like you got to be super specific about what you do because you pay for every lead that comes in. And if people are, hitting you up for stuff that you just don't do, like that's wasted money. But I was spending, and this is another tangent we could go on. With Thumbtack, it was costing me about $300 per month in leads, but my average job was like $3,000. So
yeah, so it's worth it.
Yeah, so if I got one job a month, it was fine. Or even if I got one job every couple of months, it was fine because I was still winning. I was still making like $1,200 profit,
easily,
on each one.
That's actually a pretty good idea. I've had like I said, I'm hearing about these small websites. I did make a Thumbtack profile 6, 7 years ago. Didn't get any luck, of the type of leads I wanted to get from it. So I've tried all these avenues a little bit. So it's always great to hear from people who did find success on it. Like I said, I had Doron who was talking about like Upwork, and I'm like, what? You're finding paid clients on Upwork that are paying decent money because Upwork is like
Mhm.
cheap international people is what I find at least. Most people use it for. So anyway, people, yeah, you've been able to find work off platforms where people wouldn't typically consider to be able to get like a 3K job, right? That's just
Mhm.
so crazy to think about that you went on Thumbtack, paid $300 for leads, and sold a 3K project. That's crazy. What type of is it? Typical corporate stuff?
Um,
Talking head
some
B
of
roll.
it was talking head B-roll. The most interesting project was a gym
Hmm.
in South Florida. They were looking for like a sales video. They were in some coaching program and like they had a specific script that they
Hmm.
were trying to do and I mean we did a great video for them and they were happy. They were super happy with the project. They even gave us we even got a testimonial from them. And we weren't the only company that they considered off
Hmm.
of Thumbtack, but they said we were the most
Hmm.
professional in the approach, like in how we replied to them, how we laid out the
Hmm.
plan and all that stuff. And so that's what made the difference in them hiring us, even though they said we were the most expensive
There you
option.
go. Yeah, you never have to be the cheapest or it does what I'm saying is your price doesn't matter. You can be the most expensive. Obviously, I wouldn't try to just be expensive just to be expensive. But I think as long as you price a project right, and you're sure about your pricing strategy, most times people, tend to go with the best and they don't really look at it, even though they'll say, oh, we want the cheapest option. That's not true. They want the best option and they're usually willing to pay,
It
yeah.
depends on the caliber of client, because there are a lot of people out there looking for the cheapest
Hmm.
option. I just think you want to position yourself so that you're not willing to be the cheapest
Yeah.
option. You should be at least in the middle of the pack price wise, or you should be to the middle to the high end of the price range
Yeah.
is where you should aim to be.
Because the
Because if
clients at the bottom, and tell me if you've had this experience. I find the less you charge, the clients are more difficult to
they're
work with.
horrible, the cheapest clients are always the most horrible because they're nickel and diming you. They're the ones that like think that they know how to do your job.
And at
That
the end, they get the bad product because here's what happens. I find the best work I do is on that mid to higher tier level. And it's not because we're doing something special. I give my 100% to all my clients. But what happens is these clients give you freedom. They give you obviously
yes,
parameters. Obviously, they're not just like, here's my money, do whatever. But that's it. Like
they're
they're
more willing to
defined.
trust your
Yeah,
expertise.
which is why they brought you on. And like you said, most likely you weren't the cheapest option. They didn't pick you because they wanted cheap. They wanted good. And same, you bring same level of expertise and you want to help a small business because let's be real, we can make a huge impact for small businesses. But then they don't bring you in as an expert. They bring you as a tool, I guess, or I don't
Hmm.
know. And it's not the same. Usually, I'm not saying all small businesses are bad, but most of them then they want you to do something specific and you're like, no, I am the expert, let me do my thing. And then it's just a battle a lot of times, because they're going by their experience, which is not that best, not that experienced, and they're not letting you give them the best. And at the end, everyone loses. You have a horrible client experience, they get a product that's not going to work for them, and then they tell people, oh, video doesn't work. And it's like, no, you brought in an expert and then you didn't let them be an expert. You know what I
Right.
mean? Now it's one thing. Now I've obviously heard stories of somebody hiring like a recent full time grad or whatever, or like new full sale graduate or whatever, and then trusting them, and then obviously didn't go well because the person was green and they didn't know what they were doing. So it could go
Well,
both ways.
but that's
Yeah,
also them usually when
not
they do
vetting
that
them. Yeah.
is well not just not vetting them, it's usually them trying to get the cheapest price.
True, that too. But also, I'm saying there's a lot of people who are new, who are green, who will present themselves as an expert too. That is a thing around here, at least in Orlando, because what happens. At least what I've noticed. And again, I'm not saying this is again everyone. We're just taking takes of what we notice. A lot of people come in. The first thing they do is, oh, I got to start a website. They'll start a DP or a production company website.
Mhm.
And again, these are the smart ones. I'm saying the hustlers, right? And then they'll go find the people that they want to be, copy paste. So it's like to an average small business owner
It
who's
might
doing
look
5 minutes of research, you're like, oh, that's pretty good. There you go. And then next thing you know, when they show up on set, like, oh, what did I sign up for, right? So kind of like that. I'm saying there's both sides of it. Either way, everyone loses, because whether you presented yourself as an expert or whether you weren't presenting, you were just the cheapest option. Either way, the result isn't going to match what the client was looking for, and at the
Yeah.
end, everyone's just going to have a bad experience. They're not going to tell their friends about you, and if you don't have repeat clients and retainers and all that shebang, you're not going to last for too long in the industry. Because I've said this before, and you tell me it's unrealistic to say every month you're going to find all new clients over and over again, every month
repeat
after
business
month.
is the way. Like, you need repeat business. You, I mean, well, and again, it depends on what kind of lane you're in. Now, if you're in real estate, you might be getting new clients every
Yeah.
month because
New houses come on and they go out.
Or if you're a wedding videographer, I mean,
it's
I
new
think it would be bad if you had repeat clientele. That's
you telling me repeat clients is not good for wedding videographers?
I mean,
it'd be funny. You'd be like, "Hey, I have
you
AI
might
tools."
be the bad luck charm.
It'd be so funny. I can't wait for the day when you're like, "Hey, I have AI tools. We don't even need to come out anymore. We'll just replace your husband.
Just send me a picture of your new boo.
We'll just put.
We'll just plug it in. It's all right.
That'd be hilarious. But no, I get it. Yeah, no, of course not. This doesn't apply to wedding or any of these videographers because but typically for what we're doing, corporate commercial work, I don't think that much new business exists. There's tons of work for everyone, but you have to keep your clients. I don't think that many new clients exist that you can every time, all the time, just find new clients.
And any business will tell you that it's cheaper to book repeat work than it is to book new work.
Absolutely. And so you're better off just giving them the best service, taking care of them, and not worrying about where your money's coming from. Again, it's best for everyone, and it's good for them because they get consistent work, consistent results. Because at the end of the day, they don't want to be in the video business. Otherwise, they'd already be in the video business. They want to be in whatever product or service they're in. They just want to sell more of that. And that's why you're just a vendor that can come in and help them do that.
Well, I mean, you don't really want to be a vendor. You want to be a partner. You want to be, somebody who can help their business get to that next level. Now, like we're saying, if you just want to be a DP, if you just want to be a sound guy, if you just want to be an editor, like there's no problem with being a hired gun, and there's plenty of work for hired guns out there. But if you're looking to go the production company route, be more independent, find your own work, not have to worry about getting on other people's productions or other people's projects, then it behooves you to be more than just a vendor.
Absolutely. Preach, my friend. Listen to him, what he just said. And so you've been doing this for obviously a long, long time. You found success. Like you said, you've had to go out and get a job. So you're doing really well. What happened in 2024 that you'd say was an exception or whatever?
Well, it's 2024 and 2023. And it's personal issues. Like like I said, I don't believe in hiding or not being transparent. I'm going through a divorce, and that has affected me mentally. That has affected me emotionally. It's been difficult to have the same level of passion and motivation for the business because I'm worried about my kids and life in general. And, I had to go set up a whole new household, burn through a bunch of savings and all that type of stuff. So it's like, whereas before it was easy to really focus a large portion of my mind on the business and, whatever success strategies I might have been employing and things like that, like now it's not.
Yeah.
And so I'm still working on my mental health. I'm still working on my physical health. Like I used to weigh 100 pounds more than I do right now. Because I was so focused on doing everything for everybody else, I didn't have the time to focus on myself.
And that's so great. And I love the transformation, by the way. I'm so glad you're focusing on yourself and working on your mental health, because that's very important. I can't imagine, doing a video gig when you have your kids to take care of. And, we've talked about this before. A lot of these gigs happen on days, like you're gonna go from this day to this day, and you're gonna fly here, and it's like, oh, but 3 days you got to keep your kids out of that. You miss out on the whole week of pay
There's
because
been a lot of that.
because that's just that unfortunate
Yeah.
life. And
I don't even know how much money I've turned down in the last 2 years because my kids' schedule and stuff like that, or not being able to work
Mhm.
the kids' schedule out with the ex-wife and things like that. Like, I've turned down a lot of money.
So, what's your strategy now in 2025? Clearly, and like I said, we've talked about this, so I've seen that. So you have the skills, you have the talent, you have the business know-how, and it doesn't mean you didn't do work. By the way, people, like, you've been doing work.
Yeah, I
It's
still
just
work.
you've been doing that much work that you were used to or can do because of all this. So, because what's your strategy this year? What are you going to change, or what are you at least thinking about to to bring about a change? Are you still working on it? Maybe.
I'm still like trying to develop a plan, honestly. But a couple of things that I know that I need to do is I kind of need to figure out, well, there's a bunch of stuff that I need to do better. But one, I need to get back to doing networking like I did back
Mhm.
in the day, which I've done more of in the last year, but not to the level that I used to do it. And so I want to get back to doing more in-person networking because I do want local work,
Mhm.
and getting out there and being seen and letting people know you exist is important. So that's one thing I want to do. Networking in person, which is a form of marketing. If you weren't aware, that is marketing. I also need to redo my website. I need to get better at making like clear, concrete offers,
Mhm.
which is always something that I've like coming
Yeah.
up with offers has always been something I've been bad
Yeah.
at. And like now I'm to the point where I'm like, there's no reason that you can't copy other people's
Mhm.
offers
Yes.
and
No,
just tweak
it is what
them
it is.
tweak
Yeah.
them to fit yourself, because it's like, why do I feel like I need to reinvent the wheel? Like, if I know somebody with a video production company in another state is killing it and they've got these 3 offers that they're doing,
Mhm.
why can't I offer
Yeah.
those?
And the truth is, you're absolutely right. Having clear, defined offers, plus if you already know the ones that work, that is exactly what you need. Now, as somebody who likes to be, because like I said, here's what I'm a filmmaker first, who has to be business owner and entrepreneurial because I just want to be on cool big sets, and those didn't exist at least in 2018 when I started the company. Corporate video was a nightmare, and when it was terrible quality. We didn't even have the level of gear we have now. Point
Mhm.
is, I just wanted to be on big sets, and I didn't want to do movies or music videos. That left me with having to reinvent essentially the wheel, which is crazy. Buying high end equipment and using it on sets because that's what I wanted to do. And now here we are. I like to be a boutique agency offering custom solutions, but let's be real, that technically hurts you because now you're like, well, come talk to me first. Let me talk
Right.
to you. And I'm not saying that's wrong. That's a good approach, like as we talked about. It's a partnership approach. But a lot of times when you're doing online marketing, that approach doesn't work or translate that well because you're like, oh, let me talk to you. Let me figure out your solution. Versus here, you're like, here's my direct offer. I want to talk to people in Altamont Springs who are making this much money, who do this specific thing. Are you a service based? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it hits right to their brain. Either they are your client with that offer or they're not. And if they are, then they immediately go, oh, that's me. And they want to reach out, right?
Mhm.
Ben was here, he explained this whole freaking process of doing that, like making an offer, what the offer is, and how to run them through the meeting. And it was incredible to hear because that's not what I
I need to
do at
see
all.
that episode.
Yes, you do need to, because he laid it down exactly, the offer, exactly how he runs it, and then how he runs the meeting when he meets them. So it's like the whole shebang from beginning to
Yeah,
the end.
email me that
Yes.
recording after
Yeah.
this. And you know what's really amazing about Ben is when I met Ben several years, I don't even remember what year I met Ben now, but he was just trying to get out of doing music videos for
Mhm.
local artists. And like he felt like when we started working, he felt like I was the big dog, and now like Ben's doing his own thing, and like he's breaking all this stuff down for you. Like just seeing the transformation is amazing.
And that's what I'm talking about. That's what I love is helping each other. And now he was here, and I was so happy that he was transparent because I went in detail with him because I don't do that. And I was like, hey, I want to learn genuinely. Maybe I'll try that. I don't know yet. Because my approach kind of still works, so I'm like, do I want to break it? Maybe I'll just try it as an addition. But then the other thing was, people who want to try that approach, because there's nothing wrong with doing clear, concise offers through Instagram. Because he's been able to close $8,000 deals off Instagram, and I just find it so crazy to believe that people are on Instagram, they're looking at these offers, going through a meeting with you. Maybe a qualifying call, but that's about it. It's a very simple process. He's not doing this whole fill out a form thing. And then to be able to close an $8,000 deal for social media content is incredible. But he had a very good point. He's showing people what they want because his literal thing is, it worked for you, right? Like, you showed up.
Right.
I'm going to do the same thing for you.
He's like, the reason we're having this meeting is because what I'm trying to sell you works.
Yeah, exactly. And now it's like, let's do that for you. So I'm like, oh, that's a very good strategy,
And I mean, and like I said, I've gotten deals off of Instagram, LinkedIn, others, social media in general. And it's because like people want that stuff, and it's like, well, my content got you here, didn't it? Like,
exactly.
And so it proved the fact that they even show up or give you the call proves that it works.
Yeah, and at the end, I'm not a fan of this topic, but and I would love to talk to David about or other people about this more on this. Is nowadays you have to be essentially a micro influencer in a way, if not a bigger influencer, because at the end of the day, again, I don't think it should.
Well, here's the thing that a lot of people don't understand, or it's a truth that many people, especially in our industry, do not want to accept, especially when you start going into I want to be a production company or like one man company or a small team company building this out. You are not a videographer. You are not a video producer. You are in sales. Every single one of us is in sales.
Mm-hmm.
But the majority of us are not willing to accept that. You are in sales and you just happen to be selling video services. But you are in sales.
Exactly. And guess what? If you weren't in sales, you'd be out of business very fast.
And so the fact that and with doing sales also comes marketing.
Mm-hmm.
None of us got into this to be salesmen and marketers. None of us. But if you want to stay alive, if you want to be able to make money on your own without depending on somebody else to like bring you the checks and bring you the opportunities, you have to become a salesman and a marketer.
And one of the better ways to do that is become an influencer in a way in your industry, which is where that whole thing comes in. You can have a clear offer. Then it's like, hey, even if they don't buy from you, they follow you because they believe, you're the expert or whatever. You're building an audience because they may not buy today. They may buy in a year or two. But that's the unfortunate thing. And again, I don't even think it's unfortunate because in life you're always selling. Because even if you want to be a DP, you better still be a good salesperson. Because why should I pick you over 500 other DPs?
Right. Because everybody got a good looking reel.
Exactly.
Well, not everybody.
Yeah, but most people. I don't even look at reels
anymore. There's a lot
anymore.
of people with good looking reels.
And funny thing is, and as a production company, I'll tell you this crazy thing. I haven't even bothered to update since my first reel. Because here's the truth I found.
I don't have a reel.
Yeah.
I have videos. I have finished projects. Yeah. I don't have a reel. I don't bother. I haven't. Now, there's one of my mentors who would tell me I'm dumb for not having a reel. But
I'm telling you don't need a reel because here's what I'll tell you. Here's my experience with reels.
But his real philosophy is different though.
Yeah.
It's not really a reel so much as it is like a brand video, a type of brand, a very specific psychologically driven brand video that he creates, not just a montage of a bunch of pretty images.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I did create it. It's still on my website. Anyone can go watch it. But here's what happened with me. I don't know if I've told that story. I've told about the client. So I've told the story about the university client that we did testimonials for, whatever.
Mhm.
But I had this meeting. So the good thing with me is, again, use your resources. People around me already were pushing me to do this, right? So before I registered the company, before I'm a video company, I already had like leads and stuff that I wasn't following or whatever, right? So I already had a couple of leads like, hey, you need to go talk to this professor. He needs a testimonial video or whatever. And I was like, whatever, right? Anyway, I'm not into that. I'm just a freelancer, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so point is, and I was like, when I got serious, I was like, okay, well, before I start the company, I need to go get this reel done or whatever. And it's so funny because that's what you think,
Mhm.
because that's
That's
what
what
the
everybody
thing
tells
was.
you.
So anyway, I went in and I made this reel, and I want people to know, and it's okay to read your failures. So I spent all this effort before launching the company to build this reel, so I can have a reel. And dude, and from other projects, so I didn't go shoot everything, but I did shoot something because I wanted it to have variety. Like I wanted to have
Yeah.
real estate and talking head and all that. But anyway, so I took some of my projects, some new stuff. I made a reel, and guess what happens? I go to the shoot. We sit down. They're like, "Yeah, this is what we want." They're very clear in what they wanted. They had no doubt because again, it's who you come from. And the lead came from my buddy, who the professor knew very well. So essentially, he was already sold on me. Like, but again, at that time, remember, I don't
Mhm.
know. This is my second meeting ever, day one of the production
Yeah.
company, right? Anyway, so I show up in the meeting. They're like, we want a testimonial. This is the budget for this other company. This is the budget we have. Can you do it? And I'm like, absolutely. Let me show you my look. So I sit there. I have this fancy iPad. I hit play. They sit through a minute of my reel. They watch it, and then the first thing the professor says is, "What is this?" And you should have seen the soul inside me die. And I was like, well, this is a reel, so you can see the quality of content. I mean, he's like, okay, good. But like, you could clearly tell he didn't give a shit. He was already sold on working
Right.
with me. And here I'm trying to use a reel. And the point I'm trying to make with all this is you don't need a reel. All I needed to do was genuinely, and I've talked about how the conversation went. It was like, hey, they charge, I don't know the price is real or not. They could have been bluffing me. But the conversation was so easy. Like, look, we want to make a testimonial. We have another company, and this was only one in town. That was, I would call, a legit company. And they were like, they said they want 5K. Our budget is 3K. Can you do it? And I was like, look, can't do it for 3K. That would be, to the level of quality I want to. Can you do 4K? You know what I mean? Because I'm gonna meet them in the middle.
Mhm.
So okay, give us some time. I walked out before I went like not even a half a mile. Like not far at all, and they had already called me. It was like, yeah, let's do it. That was the entire
Nice.
sales process. But what I'm saying is, here me contriving, they need to see my reel,
Mhm.
they need to pick me on quality or blah blah blah. And the truth is, the warm lead mattered more than
Oh yeah.
anything. And then obviously I had to present them with a project that they liked and they loved and all that blah blah blah, all that extra stuff that comes with it. But the point I'm trying to make is you don't need a reel. And from that day onward, I never showed a client a reel once. So remember, in at least now they could have gone on my website, they could have
Right.
looked at it,
That's
but I have
reels
never
are to live on websites.
yeah, but
you
I
don't
have
show
never.
them in meetings.
Yeah, but I'm saying I have never had a client once mention my reel or looked at my reel or talked about my reel since that day, and I've had no trouble closing.
And
I
also,
think
clients don't talk about cameras.
Yeah.
They don't talk about
none of this.
image quality.
Yeah.
They like the only times I've ever had a client or potential client ask me about what camera I use or what quality we shoot in or a format or anything technical
Is
pertaining
agencies
to
probably right?
is
Yeah.
if it was another production company that needed me to subcontract for them, or if it was an agency that was looking for
Exactly.
somebody to match what they already had.
Yeah, direct clients don't care, and I'm glad. Like I said, I learned that within my second meeting. But what I'm trying to tell people is, don't need a reel, and you what you need is obviously skill. But clients can see through that, and you want warm leads because when you get there, they're already sold on it. You just want to kill it, so they will now recommend you. Because if I hadn't done those testimonials, the quality that they wanted, right, then they wouldn't have gone and recommended me to other departments, which is what we ended up doing, right? We
Yeah.
closed the whole freaking university with one project. But the thing was that, like I said, but the first lead came from a friend. You have to go out and network, get that lead. Real doesn't matter. Then just go kill it. Either kill it yourself by doing a great job or bring in people that you know who can kill it. Don't worry about profit the first few gigs because you want to just do good quality content so people want to keep working with you and also create a good experience. To me, it's like having fun on set, just being nice to work with. Just all that matters as much as the final product, because if you go in, you're miserable or you're just not easy to work with, nobody wants to then also recommend you either. So it's like
Right.
both of those are important. The first interview is the meeting, second interview is the shoot, and then the final interview is the result. And as long as you do good all 3 times, you're gonna have no trouble, at least in my opinion, finding work. Because like I said, I've never talked about it, and I've never had anyone come to me and be like, "Your reel is amazing." Obviously we do way better content than that reel. I haven't even used those cameras since like this first or second shoot. So none of that matters. But at that point, in your head, you go, that's what I need. And I haven't ever bothered to update it because nobody's cared to even mention it. If somebody does mention it, I will happily update it. But I'm like, why spend cost when nobody cares? Because most of my leads are warm leads. And even when they're new, all they say is, oh yeah, we looked at your content. It was great. I'm like, oh, if it's great, then it's great. I don't know what you looked at it, but it's great, and let's move on to the real thing. Let's have a money conversation or the project. Now, the only time I show my projects to client is when you get those who have no idea, right? They go, okay, we want to do a brand video. How much does it cost? And that's a can of worms, because we can do a brand video for $3K, $5K, $50K, right? And all those are valid price points, but the video is different. So I have to ask them, the qualifying questions. And if I'm still not getting anywhere, I will genuinely just pull out the iPad. And I love iPad by the way, for doing this, because the screen quality is great. It's easy to pull up videos. I'll go, okay, let me show you a few. So here's one we did for 5K. Here's one we did for 15K. Here's one we did for 50K. Now you tell me which one you want to do. And then, they go, oh, it makes it so easy to, do the good, better, best, but like with actual video.
Right.
Because then they can see what I mean by, it's the details, it's the effort that went into the lighting and all that. And if they perceive it, generally, they'll go with the middle option. That's just how people's brains work. And that's good for us too, because that's decent quality without, too low. But if some people will go, no, I'll just take the cheapest, then that's what it is, Either way, that's the only time I ever show videos. Outside of that, I don't think any of my clients have ever cared about old videos.
What I do is I include video examples in my proposals, so that they can
same thing, they can get an idea.
Yeah, so they can get and I also do something different with my proposals, because I think a lot of times you just give like the flat number.
Yeah,
I do pricing breakdowns, and people are of different minds about it. Some people like pricing breakdowns, some people don't. Some clients like them, some clients don't need them.
Tony, right? Corporate level media. He mentioned you. I think you two are doing. I saw his proposal. So here's what happened. So people that watch that podcast, he came in. He mentioned that too, and he was like, "Oh yeah, how he got it from Alex and from you, and then you guys have the same mentor or whatever program that you joined." And I was so curious, because I don't do that. Now I have learned from you, and so for people who don't know. And this is why you have these conversations. I think it was a few years ago we met for some kind of rental or something. Either way, and us talking about it, and I immediately went in and I'm kind of very much about like either flat pricing based on the conversation we had, or good, better, best option. If we're still wary on options. But then you mentioned like having these options, and it got my ball rolling. And immediately I went in and I've added hair and makeup and sound. A couple of people that I want on set, but the first ones to get deleted because of budget. Our hair and makeup and sound, and we both know sound and hair and makeup make our work look so much better. So I've just on my all my proposals now, because it's part of the template, it just stays there, and you'll be amazed how many people have just checked it. And I don't think it's that much profit. We obviously take a cut, but it's not like so much, because people know the rates. Like, I'm not adding that much to it. Either way, it's added slight revenue in the company, but every time I bring a dedicated sound guy or a dedicated hair and makeup, it makes my work better, and the clients are always happier because they feel better on set. So that came from you and having that conversation. So I know some of the option things work, but you guys take it to another level with like essentially a lot of options to build out the proposal, right?
I don't put as many options as I used to when I first, because my mentor is an advocate of having everything under the sun.
So that's what Tony's doing, dude. I was like, this is a rate, which I saw the benefit. Let me first say pro before I say I will never do that. Like I said, Tony spoke about that, but I saw the whole thing. I was like, I like how easy it would be to make a proposal. You could just check everything, you get a total. There is no confusion about what I should charge for the project. Great. But dude, after 10 pages, I'm like, this is a lot of
Yeah, and
options.
that's why I started. I cut out like everything that was non-essential because like I felt like the proposal was just too long and people wouldn't want to
And
look through
decision
all the
fatigue would get there,
yeah.
yeah, right? Yeah.
And so now my proposal, it's I put everything that I think should be in there. I don't really include a lot of extra options for them to check. I just say like, hey, if you want extra days or if you want, you know, this, that, or the third, you can adjust the amounts
Mhm.
and you'll see it reflected in the price.
And
So
that
things
makes it
like
easy
that.
for them. Look, this is why I want to have these conversations, because I want people to be able to pick their path. My advice is don't do that. My advice is I like flat, either good, better, best, or flat pricing, and a couple of options which I learned from you, and it's worked great for me. And that's how I recommend it. But I don't want people to just follow what I'm saying, because clearly your strategies worked for you. Because I know you've told me how you've been able to upsell without having to even upsell, because they can themselves, like I said, pick extra days or whatever. And then Tony, on the other hand, has said how he's able to has been able to sell, expensive projects, because they can go in, they can be like, oh, I want to add this, because it's a whole rate menu card, and you don't know what they're gonna pick if you don't offer them. So there's three different strategies. Well, I would say two strategies, and yours is you found yourself the best middle ground. And I want people to be able to pick their strategy. I would love to have a definitive answer on this, but I don't.
Well,
Uh,
it's whatever works for you,
yeah,
man.
at the
Like when
end
it
of the day.
comes to pricing and how to sell projects, there is no one absolutely right way.
Yeah.
Like there's many ways that work, and you got to find a way that you're comfortable with, where that helps you feel confident in your pricing, because that's another part. Like you got to be confident in your pricing. um and so the way that I've developed to do it, and like the whole structure based pricing and everything, it just helped me be more confident in saying what
Mm-hmm.
the prices were. Because back when I used to do more like what you do, and you just give them a flat
Mm-hmm.
number, or which a lot of people call like value based
Mm-hmm.
pricing, I was always undervaluing myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but now when I go in and I just, because I have certain pieces of it that are just set, and I just go in and it's like, well, the project should take this many days with this many hours, and oh, they're gonna need this, they're gonna need that, they want this many pieces of content. When I get to that number, it makes sense to me, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
confident in saying it, because
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, these are all the pieces that add up,
Yeah.
and so that's what it should be. And I even think, even at where my prices are at right now, I honestly think they should probably be higher.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I haven't nailed down yet how to reliably get those clients
Yeah.
that are comfortable with those prices. And that's another part, is like, whatever price point you have, there's a client out there that
Mm-hmm.
can pay that and will pay that, and it's no problem for them to pay that. But you've got to figure out who those clients are,
Mm-hmm.
and you've got to figure out how to get in front of those clients. And when you can do that, when you've figured out those two things, then you can get the money you want
Mm-hmm.
with the amount of work that you want, and you're good. But if you can't figure out how to get in front of the clients that are comfortable with those prices, well, then you got a
Yeah.
problem.
Exactly. And like you said earlier, I think the best thing is we're all salespeople, whether we want to be, or we don't want to be like me, because I'd rather be on set, but at the same time, do I want to be on set? We all have a minimum that we're happy with. And my whole thing is I'm not going to be on set if I'm not going to give it my 100%. And I'm not going to give it my 100% if I'm not making this minimum. Simple as that. So
Right.
I just don't even want to take it, because my clients don't deserve me at anything but my 100%. And now that brings a good topic, and I want to talk about it. Here's my opinion. I would love to hear yours after that. But how to price, because I think a lot of people go with like how to come up with the day rate. They hear somebody else's day rate and say, okay, well, that must be the right day rate. And that's not true. Like, don't, again, look for other people for advice, but I don't think anyone should just copy other person 100%, because you don't know their skill level, their
Right.
kit, what they're bringing. What you should do is pick a number that you're happy. Like, hey, here's my bare minimum that makes me happy to leave home. I'm going to give it my 100% or whatever. I'm going to do a good job on set. And then once you believe it, right, because you chose the number,
Right.
you should believe it. Otherwise, keep working on the number. Then say it confidently. This is my rate. And most people will either then hire you or not. And if you're getting 50 to 80% yes, then you're good. If you're getting 100% yes,
if you're getting 50, 80% yes, you might need to take your rate higher.
That's what I'm saying. If you're getting a 50 to 80% yes, or well, let's say, okay, if you're getting most people to say yes, up your rate, please. And if you're getting nobody or very little people to say yes, then lower your rate. And I think market dictates at the end of the day.
Yeah, you gotta do some research. Now you shouldn't wholesale base what you charge on what other people charge, because like you said, people have different equipment, they've got different experience, they've got different areas of specialty, all those things. But you should be somewhere in the middle.
Yeah,
especially
I think it gives you a reference point to start.
If you're just starting out, so this is to my people who are just starting out. Do not try to charge the highest day rate that you've heard of in your vicinity, because you do not deserve it. You don't have the body of work to back it up. You don't have the clientele. Like, you don't have the history. Don't go out and try to swing for the stars your first day trying to get on set. Like, you're setting yourself up. Because the thing is, with certain levels of money comes certain levels of expectation. So if you're out here, charging a $1,500 day rate, that comes with $1,500 day rate expectations.
Yeah.
If you're out here charging $250, the expectations are a lot less.
Yeah.
Also, your quality of client may be a lot less.
Yeah.
Because I think if they're trying to hire a videographer or anybody in the production world for $250. Unless you're just like an assistant or what's the
PA?
Yeah, just like a PA. Like for a PA, maybe $250 for
or
a day
a grip,
is okay.
Maybe you're a grip or a PA. Yeah.
But anybody who's like a specialist, if they're trying to hire you for $250, you might not have the best experience with that client.
Exactly. Plus, but if that's where you are at, then that's okay too.
But if you're first starting out, you may, and the other thing is, if you're just starting out and they know you're just starting out, you may have to charge some $250, $350 jobs just to get a job. But then you knock those jobs out of the park. You do the best job that you can so that you've got great looking material to show to future potential clients, so that you can start charging $500, $750, $1,000, whatever it is.
And remember, you're getting more value out of it. A lot of people think that the value is just the client. So client paid you $250, $350, you made them a silly or whatever the video they wanted, right? Clearly not the best work, but you're improving your skills, because remember, the value you're getting is experience for yourself. Because when you go to that $1,500 day rate job, the expectations need to be matched. And where are you going to get them? Either by being on other people's set or by doing better work for yourself and learning through either YouTube, university, or wherever. But the other thing I want people to know is just know that your rate, when you get hired by direct clients and by a production company, is not the same thing. You have to be willing to understand that. I've had so many people go, oh yeah, my rate is $1,500. And I'm like, that's great. Nothing wrong with your rate. But like, what's your rate for me? Because I have to go bill my client $1,500. Now, what am I, so what I'm saying is, when you're working with a producer, we have costs to do payroll or to do taxes and to do credit card fees and other payment processing fees, client acquisition fees. Because when you're working with someone, we have meetings and other stuff. Point is, when I work for myself, I work a lot more, but I charge more. When Alex says, "People, I want to hire you," then all I'm doing is showing up with maybe the gear or without the gear, and then I do the job and I go home and I get paid. I don't have to worry about when the payment is coming through, what the issues are. So you have to understand, Alex is going to make a cut off whatever he pays me. So whatever he can charge the client, he's going to give me. Again, everyone has their own rates, but I typically go 80% or something like that. Other person may do different rate. Point is, just know that you have to cut your rates a little bit, because the other person has other costs that they need to be able to make up, and that's okay. Like, you should do the same thing when you bring other people in,
right?
Because, like,
and one thing that you should do when you're bringing other people in, especially when you're starting out, tell them what you can pay them. Like, don't ask people what's their rate. Say, hey, I need somebody to do this. This is what I can pay, because then you don't have to waste time with that whole back and forth of, oh, well, I charge $1,000. Okay, well, what's your price for me? Like, no, it's like, hey, I need an assistant on this. I could pay $500 for the day. Do you want to do it?
Exactly. Makes it very easy. That's very smart, Alex. Just cut through the whole chase. And but I'm saying be willing. I've had people go, same thing. Now let me tell one experience I had. So I had somebody that I hired, 250, 350, 450, those type of ranges for the day. And then I go a couple of months not hiring them, which I'm great, they're learning. And then they go, oh, my rate is $1,500 now, because I called them back. And I was like, hey, you want to come help out and be an assistant just like you did, or be a second cam op, whatever. And they go, oh, my rate is $1,500 now. I'm like, okay, I understand upping your rate, but your rate didn't go from $400 to $1,500 in 2 months. I know your skill level didn't jump that high. So also be reasonable with your jumps. I'm like, if clients will pay you, absolutely. Again, you have clients who are paying you, that's fine. But I know your skill level, because I worked with you many, many times. Your skill level just didn't up $1,000 in 2 months, So what I'm also saying is be reasonable, don't break bridges, which is fine. I was like, hey, if you're getting work, perfect. Hang up, call the next person on my network. Because I hire people all the time, even at $2,500 day rates. But the jobs have to, what I'm saying is, exactly. And then I hired grips and PAs at $250 a day. So, there's going to be and everything in between. And so the job dependent and the experience dependent. So when I'm hiring people at that low level, I ask them, I'm like, what are you good at? Oh, I know how to set up a C-stand, but I don't know how to set up a light. Great. I know that now, and I'll work within that limitation. Because you're at that low rate, I'm okay you not knowing everything. As long as I know up front, then I'm going to put somebody who knows how to set up the light with somebody who knows how to set up the stand, for example. You guys are good. You got your thing. I'm happy because, that's the expectation from the job. Or you're brand new and I like your vibe. I'm like, okay, well, there's unpaid, but you can come do BTS or whatever, right? So I'm getting something out of it, but I'm not like taking advantage of you by putting you to work. So everyone gains, and you learn by being on the set. So what I'm saying is you have to match where you are at with what the job is. Now obviously we're filming a commercial, high-end client. Hey, you're coming with your Alexa package. Obviously, here's $2,500. That's your rate, and I'm happy to pay it. I was like, what's your rate? $2,500. There you go. To me, it was worth it, because thinking about the lens and the camera package rental, I'm end up paying $1,500 anyway, because I'm counting $1,000 as a rental, and I'm like, that's a very good rate, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm saying that there's also context. Plus, I'm like, oh, you've been on bigger sets. It's a great fit. So, you know what I mean? Like, you have to balance it out. What do you think, right?
Yeah, I think you're perfectly right. Because
you hire a lot of people, on your set.
Yeah, and like I said, I've always won out with the telling people what I can pay. And sometimes there's some pushback, or not pushback, I'll say, but they'll say, oh, well, I usually work for this. And it's like, and you have to think, okay, well, how much do I really want this specific person? Mm-hmm. Am I willing to pay that extra? Like I don't hire a ton of different people. Usually my go-tos are, Ben, Quentin, and then like I'll hit people in the group to see if I can find somebody. But
even Adam has come work for you. Look at that.
Adam, because I needed a drone guy, and Adam had drone skills and had a good drone, and I mean, I don't want to say what I hired Adam for, because he would probably be mad at me. But he did me a favor. I fully know that Adam did me a favor that day. I think he just wasn't busy.
Yeah. No, it's the same thing. Like I've done that for him too. I want people to know, and that's where the relationship comes in. As long if you need help, or if for example, there's a project that Adam needed help with, and he needed like a gaffer, I would call it. We don't have defined roles in corporate work, but essentially, and I was free that day, and I was like, buddy, like this isn't my rate, obviously, but I'm happy to just hang out with you, so let's just do it. And then same thing he did, and it's not one way. Then I needed a project. I was stuck in some airport, some other city, doing a project, and then I was like, hey, I need help this isn't your rate, but here's what I need. I need you to bring a tripod. I need, whatever I needed. And I will have this much of my gear there and this many people. Can you come in and help? Plus, I'd like you to lead because I know you can run a team. And he was happy to do it. Obviously, not remotely close to, you know what I mean?
Right.
Same thing. It's just like we trust. And then I had you lead last year. I think it was that live streaming event thing where it was like, look, I'm not going to be there. Day one, I need you to, you're going to have your cam up and it's a small team. I mean, I had like 11 or whatever people there, but your team, because you were IMAG, it was you and a cam op. And I was like, look, here's equipment, go do it. And plus you had your cameras. I was like, so you don't need to bring your cameras, here's your equipment and go run it. And I trust you. You ran it. Life is good. Client's happy. You know what I mean? Like, can't complain. I didn't even have to be there. And obviously,
and that takes some trust building.
Yeah, and you're doing me a favor. Plus, I'm also giving you so much of my gear. It's my trust that you're not going to break my gear, and then you have trust that you're willing to work at a rate that's probably lower than what you would charge if you were doing it for yourself. That's how it is. We have to.
But it's the thing of I just had to show up and do the thing. Like, I didn't have to go to meetings. I didn't have to try to chase a client. I didn't have to do none of that.
All the planning. Yeah, you just handle it. But that's what I'm saying. But what I'm trying to get to is building this network and helping each other out, I think, is what makes us all of us elevate our brands and levels and quality and charge more. But we can only do that when we have friends who understand the business. See, for me, it's easier to hire people like you, Adam, Emmanuel, all the people I've had on the podcast, to be real, Ben, because Ben was there too, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, because I'm like, these people get it. Like, they understand the business side of it. They understand what I'm charging the client, what I can pay. And plus, you're happy because, like I said, some people I asked, I think you were one of the people where I asked what you could do it for. But with Ben, I was like, look, I don't even want to know what your rate is. This is what I can pay. Can you come? Because his job was just interviewing people, right? And I was like, look, I mean, I have somebody like Alex running the iMac. I need somebody running this side of the team. Can you come? You're not really touching the camera. You can do some B-roll for me, and he did. But I was like, rest is just run the interview set, right? And that's your set. But like, come on, like, you don't have to actually do much other than ask questions. And if you think about it, but either way, I just presented it like what I needed him to do. Here's the rate, and he was happy to take it because it's, like you said, it's pretty decent money for, if you think about it, for not bringing any equipment, just showing up, asking a bunch of questions at a good event. But at the end, I'm saying the event went great because I had people I trust there, at rates where they were happy, but then I was happy because I'm making a cut on everyone, right? And so I'm making good money.
And that's another thing. Like, don't think that you shouldn't make a cut on everyone.
Yeah, and if
you're puppet mastering the thing and being the brain behind it, and you
attending
got the client,
and
you're
all that,
planning it all out. Like, you deserve that money.
Yeah, exactly.
You deserve that money, and I think that's another thing that's why a lot of people stay small. They don't hire crews, is because they're not comfortable with that, or they think that they don't even think that they can hire, or that they don't even think that they can take a cut off of. They just pay the person the day rate, and that's exactly what they charge to the client. They're not putting anything on top of that. It's like, no, you should be making a cut off everything you provide.
Exactly. And because at the end of the day, look, I had like 35 grand in line that day. I can't risk it with strangers. I can only risk it with friends, people I trust, people I know. And I am not going to, plus I'm not there physically. I cannot fix anything. Biggest thing we do is problem solve. I don't know what you're going to run into, what issues with, I think, audio. You guys had issue with the people doing audio that day. That's what I'm saying. Who knows what the issues are going to be, what the problems are going to be. But at the end, this is a higher level gig, because they're paying 35 grand for total for all the services, because it wasn't just one thing, right? We're doing interviews, we're doing the iMag, we're also doing recap video, we're doing a bunch of things. Point is, if they're paying that level of pricing, they expect premium, right? And then on our side, I expect things to go without hiccup. I don't want my team to be like they had that audio issue, to have any issues in the work. Point is, and I only trust, people that I know who'll do a good job. And like I said, if they're happy to come help out, make a good, day rate, and then I'm happy that I executed it without even being there at a level where the client was happy.
And that is such a good feeling. Like, you guys, a lot of you don't know the feeling of having a project happen without you being there. Like, that is one of the best feelings. And honestly, that's when you are truly starting to build a business, when you can execute projects without you being there. that is when you are starting to build a business that can
And here's the cherry on the cake. I was at a different gig making money. So you know what I mean? Like
Right.
you're like double dipping. You're making good. Like I'm like, oh, I'm making money here and I'm making money there. I'm not even there. And to me, the best feeling is that, like what you mentioned, just projects happen without you. But then here's what I love. I'm obsessive. So believe it or not, I had this chart where I planned out where everyone was going to sit, what everyone's going to do, where the interview was going to be. So before, because, you know, I had to do site visits and everything, I had like the whole thing planned out. But remember, I'm sending people essentially blind because you guys don't show up until day one. And then to look at footage, because I sent a producer in, I sent Julie as the producer, and I trust her. And I was like, okay, so you're my eyes. You know, I need to see footage. And then to see exactly being executed how I planned out is just such a, I don't know, a fulfilling feeling.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, I didn't just call you and Ben and I just said, go do this, right? I gave you the tools. I gave Ben the tools that you guys needed to execute. Like you said, you had to just show up, set it up, get it running, right? So to plan it and then for it to happen in real life without you being there is just such a good feeling. And when you see the bigger picture, I'm seeing this wide shots from a phone, right? Cell phone footage, and everyone's where they need to be. The interview set looks like that. The IMAX looks like how it needs to look. The B-roll for the recap video is going exactly how I wanted the presence to be of the camera operators. I'm like, this is incredible because. And while I'm filming, remember, I'm doing my thing.
You're doing something somewhere else.
I'm already filming.
City.
And then I'm looking at these and I'm like, okay, this is perfect execution. Great. I had no feedback. I think I had like got one call or whatever that day, like to put about some question. But you guys, everyone I'm saying executed perfectly. And that's just one of the gigs. We did that multiple times last year. And I was like, this is the best feeling in the world. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. But now it's not for everyone. Because like I say, you have to put your trust in. You have to hire the right people.
And it's also a skill set that you got to develop. That's another thing that I had to learn over the years. And like I haven't been hiring people and putting people on gigs and stuff forever. It's only been the last few years. It was like I got a really big client in 2021, I want to say. They hired me to do a recruiting video for their company, and they also hired me to do some other stuff. But basically, it was like a 3-month contract, $30,000. And when I got that, I was like, okay, I got to start hiring help. Like, because I knew that it was big enough that like I couldn't do everything myself, or that it would be way too much work for me to try to do everything myself. And so I was just like, okay, I got to get used to this. You have to get used to hiring people, because for some folks who aren't used to it, it's going to feel weird. It may even feel like bad. It might be anxiety inducing to start handing that money to other people.
Yeah.
But now it's to the point where like I don't care about paying somebody else. Like I want to be able to pay somebody else. I want it to be built into the budget of the project that I can pay other people to do the shit, so I don't have to.
Exactly. And that's how you level up, because the truth is, look, you have 24 hours, 7 days a week, 52 weeks in a year. That's all the time you have. Can you go out, get projects, shoot, edit, market, do everything, client meetings yourself? But then you have a ceiling, right? And that ceiling can never be crossed. You can never become a real business because that you're doing everything. The only way you can grow is to look at the bigger picture, realize what you're good at, right? Do what you're good at, and then delegate or hire people to do stuff you're not good at. I don't know how to do accounting or taxes. You know, you hire the people to do that, right? And then because you can spend hours and hours on TurboTax and figure it out, but that hours and hours could be better spent on sales or
right. And there's probably a bunch of nuanced stuff that you'll miss, and then you'll end up paying the government more money than you should, or not being able to keep as much money as you should.
And you'd rather just hire an expert and let them deal with it, and saves you time to actually work on things that you're good at. And I think that's like the biggest lesson to, if anyone wants to go from individual, making a limit of whatever the ceiling is for you, like day rate,
and like once again, it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, like the least amount of stress I had on a project last year was this project where this company hired me on a tight timeline. It was a nonprofit. They needed a video to introduce their CEO at their annual conference. but they wanted to interview shareholders in multiple cities, and they needed it done. And basically, from the first meeting, I had a month to get it done, and they were like, "Yeah, we're just not sure like how it's gonna work with like flying you out to interviews." And I'm like, "We don't gotta do that."
Yeah.
And so I got. I used some of my connections. I used the internet. I hired crews in the different cities where they needed to get the interviews done, because it was just an interview.
Yeah.
It was just an interview with each of these people. I didn't need no B-roll. I didn't need anything else. And so like I figured out what's a price that I think I can get this done at in each of these cities. You know, how many cities is it? Blah, blah, blah. And even though you would think with that month time, because that was a month to shoot it, edit it, and turn it in. And you would think that would be really stressful, because like the first couple of weeks was just like the plannings and logistics of everything. It was the least stressful project that I had that year, because all I had to do was be on those meetings. Then because I hired, you know, I did a really good job of vetting people that I hired. I showed up on Zoom to interview those people. They sent me the footage, and I had them like input the camera signal into Zoom so I could verify it was a good looking image.
You were the remote producer essentially.
And then I hired a good editor who I handed, because I knew the type of video it was.
Yeah.
It's the type of video that I overthink when it comes to editing, and I'm like, it's like if I have to edit this, I'm gonna hold up the process. And so I hired a good editor. I handed him all the footage. I had like I probably over communicated what it was supposed to be. Like I had a whole info board that I wrote out, and you know, gave him stock footage that they provided, plus gave him access to my stock footage and all that type of stuff. And it was just like dude, he had the first edit turned around in like 3 days or 4 days or something, which would not have been the case if I did it.
That's so incredible.
And he did such a good job. Like, and it was just like, at the end of it, I almost felt like I didn't do anything. And it was like a $10,000 project or $11,000 project. And like, I felt like I almost didn't do it. I did do work. And I even went to one of the interviews because I have family out in DC, which was one of the cities where they needed interviews. So I actually used funds from the project to go visit family.
Look at that.
Hey,
why not?
Because I justified it by like, well, a ticket's not that much to DC from Orlando, and like I'll actually show up boots on the ground for this one shoot, which allowed me to meet the lady who hired me from the company, because she was the marketing director. So I actually got to meet and make nice with the marketing director. So on that front, it was worth it.
No, that's incredible. I remember talking to you about that gig, and I was like, that's exactly where you level, not you are already level up, but people level up. Because here's the truth. You make the most amount of money and your best work when you're the puppet master. That's just how it is. Or you are completely, the other way you can make good work, maybe not the best money, is when you are just a DP, so you can be, or whatever, one task, but then you can do the best.
If you were super specialized.
Yeah, then you can focus on that one task. But in general, me and Adam talked about this too. Like, he was able to level up his production company because, you know, he was able to bring in, other people like me and David and other people to be able to then be that puppet master. Not that, he always wants to do that, but that's just how you can take more projects.
That's how you get bigger projects.
Yeah.
Or even, it may not be that the project is bigger, but that you can justify having a higher price to people who otherwise might not understand. Because just from the client side, it's a different feeling from the client side when you hire somebody or you hire a company and one person rolls in to take care of your project, or 3 people roll in, or 4 people roll in, or 5 or 10 people. Like, when multiple people have to roll in to do, because when you're the client and somebody wants to charge you $10,000 to do one video, but one guy walks in the door, you might be sitting there like, is this really supposed to cost $10,000? And it could be $10,000 worth of work.
Exactly.
But if one guy shows up to do the work, you're kind of like, should we have paid this much money? But when a team rolls in the door, then it's like, oh, okay. And the team rolls in with all the equipment that a team can bring and set up quickly and get to work. Then it's like, oh, okay, I understand why this is $10,000.
Exactly. There you go. And that's man, you couldn't have said it better. Now I want to go back because we've already been talking for quite some time, but I want to talk that specific gig because that's the type of gigs people want to get. So first, tell me, how did you find that gig?
The gig found me. It was an old client of mine who had been hired by this nonprofit as their like director of operations. She heard they wanted to do this video. She recommended me because I had produced her podcast. I had helped her with the brand video for her podcast, and we had a great relationship. She's not doing her podcast anymore because she got busy with family and stuff like that. So it got to be where she couldn't handle the workload of doing the podcast, even though I was doing all the technical stuff.
But either way, she had already worked with you.
She had a great experience with me. She pretty much pre-sold them on me. She was like, I know him. I've worked with him for years. He's great. You should talk to him.
Best clients, because now you don't have to sell anything but figure out the solution. Right. So how did you do a virtual meeting, I'm guessing?
Yeah.
So how did that go, and how did you come to the price that you did, and what was the price? You can give us rough numbers. Doesn't have to be exact.
Original price was supposed to be $15,000. It came down to like $10,000 or $11,000 because they cut some of the interviews out.
Okay. And how many interviews did it end up being?
It ended up being, I want to say it was 4 interviews that my crew shot. There was supposed to be a 5th interview that they shot, but that person ended up saying, hey, my schedule is too tight. I'll just have the video people that work at my company shoot it, and we'll send it to you.
Okay. So you shot 4, and 1 came from them, and you just had to cut the 5 into a video, right? With stock footage and stuff. Okay, perfect. To price it out when you're in the meeting, did you already give the price, or you said, no, I'll send you a quote after? Or
I had to send them a quote after. I had to figure it out.
So, and then for you to figure it out, did you use your pricing sheet, or you first had to go on Production Up and find these crews first? How did you do the number first?
So I came up with the price. Basically how I did it was there was pre-production fees, there was media storage fees, there was fees for the editing, and then there was a price per shoot. Because they were having me do multiple shoots in each in these different cities. And so when it came to the price per shoot, I first looked at it as if I was actually going to do this, if I was actually going to shoot this in Orlando, what would I charge somebody to shoot this in Orlando? And I came up with that number, and because and then I said, all right, since I'm actually not going to be there, I'm going to tack on a virtual producer fee because I'm dialing in, I'm conducting the interview for them, making sure it all goes smoothly. And then I said, okay, out of what I would want to charge for this shoot, what can I pay somebody for this 1 hour shoot? Because it's pretty much, it was like 2 hours, like an hour to set up, half hour to do the interview, half hour to break down. What can I pay somebody for this 2 hours of work that they're not going to feel insulted, and I can get somebody who's decent?
Yeah.
And so then I decided on that number so that I could see what I would actually make off of the project. And I had to price out what I was going to pay an editor.
Okay.
So I had to get the number. I had to know what I was willing to pay per shoot, what I was willing to pay an editor, and then how much money I could make off all these things. And then
so that's pretty good. You did some calculation, you came out with $11,000. You sent the proposal.
Well, it was $15,000 because I was supposed to originally do 7 interviews. Okay. 3 of those went away.
Okay.
And then and so when we had agreed on it, when they had seen the proposal, they were like, they knew that some of the interviews, because they still had to book everybody for the interviews. And that was another thing. That was another stipulation I had to make. It's like, y'all have to book these things. Y'all have to book the people. You have to arrange the place. Yeah. So all I have to do is tell my crews when to show up. Yeah. Like, because if I have to do all that extra work, if I have to contact them and do all this stuff, because I don't know none of these people, one, they're not going to take me as serious because they're not you. Yeah. And 2, that's a whole lot of extra work on my plate. I only got a month. I can't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
And so those were stipulations that I had to make, which they were fine with.
So once they made the changes, it was $11,000. They signed. Did you take 50% deposit or all of it up front?
50%.
50%.
I usually do
50%. What's your other 50%? When do they pay that? When they get the deliverable?
When they approve the deliverable.
Okay. So they have to approve it, then they get the file.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. So contract signed, you got the thing. I'm guessing where did you find these people? Production Hub and your network?
Some of them, one was in my network. Like I went to my network first because I knew that I was most likely to get people who would agree to the price that I wanted. Because I got some
good deal.
I got some not nice emails from people on Production Hub telling me that my rate that I was offering.
Oh,
was
you were
way
the
too
other
low.
side of it. It's so funny. Here we're telling people to charge more, and then you're offering low money.
Well, because like we said, I knew it wasn't going to be more than 2 hours of work, and all they had to do was show up and shoot it and send me the file.
Yeah.
Like so that's why. So and
that's okay, you know.
Right.
Look, when you become a producer,
there's going to be somebody. There's going to be somebody who will agree to it at that price. Because even though I had a couple of not nice emails from old grizzled veterans telling me that you're ruining the market and this is what I would charge to do this. Yeah, that's what you would charge if you were going direct to client. I'm not the end client.
Yeah, you have to make your profit. So I get that.
But I got so many emails from people willing to do it. Even when I set it at a price where I was like, I don't know if somebody's going to be willing to take it at this price. And I got really good people at that price. Like I got people that I thought
stop undercharging people. Stop it.
I got people whose when I saw their work, I couldn't believe that they were agreeing to do my job for the price that I was paying.
Because they don't have the business skills. They're probably lacking work because they're talented. Like a lot of people in this industry, they're most. I'm guessing again, but I'm most likely the people I come across who are like that. Yeah, they're very talented, but they don't have the business skills to know what to charge. Which is good for you when you're a producer, but not good, when you're like a mentor or a friend.
Right, and it may have been a Bender case where it's like, we don't got nothing to do that day. Let me make an extra however many dollars.
Okay.
And which is what I kind of think I got. I think because it was and I specified it in the job. I'm like, this job will take you 2 hours. And I think that was why, like if it was going to be a half day or a full day, like definitely wouldn't have got these people at that price.
Exactly.
But because it was like, it's going to take you 2 hours. It's one interview. There's no B-roll.
What type of cameras did they use?
Most of them were shooting with Sonys.
Okay.
One person shot with Reds, which I was like, why do you want to do this job with Reds? I guess it's just what he has.
Yeah, exactly. But, most likely, that's what that is.
Like because when and that was the guy in DC. Did a fantastic job. Like he even color graded the footage for me.
What did you pay him? Come on, we can know.
$750.
Look at that, $750. Showed up in the Reds and color graded the footage, which is why I'm telling you, don't invest in gear. It's not worth it.
I didn't even ask him to. He offered to.
Yeah.
And I'm glad he did because because he sent me the raw footage himself and I tried to color grade it and it did
red footage is not the easiest. I mean, it's really good because you can manipulate it, but if you don't know what you're doing, it's just time consuming.
And I've used red footage before and gotten good results, but that time for some reason I was not on point that day. Like because I tried to color grade it. Nope.
That's okay. Which red was it? Older or newer? Was it DSMC3 or 2?
I think it was one of the newer joints, the little
Komodos or whatever,
Komodo.
which is pretty good. I mean, camera.
Yeah. So like, but what? Yeah, it did not go well when I tried to color grade it, and I was like, so he did the whole Rec 709 on it, and I was like, thank you.
Yeah, no, and that's what I'm saying. That's great. Obviously, good for you to get people at $750 because I know that's lower than what rate people would think. But hey, at the end of the day, those people were happy.
But you got to think, $750 for 2 hours of work.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Pretty good.
Yeah, especially when all they're doing single camera. I'm guessing, or were there two camera?
It was two cameras.
2-camera interview, and they come, set up the interview, film, give you the file, they leave. Basically, is the premise. And so you did 4 of those at $750 a pop. So what? $3,000. Then what's your editing expense on that?
$500.
So you spent $3,500. So your profit is
I spent a little bit more. One guy got a little bit extra because they moved the location of the interview on him, and I was like, "Hey, bro, I'll like."
Okay.
It was like, I know you got to travel to do this. Like, I know you got to travel farther than you originally thought to do this. I'll pay you a little extra.
So, but you made still $6,500, $7,000.
Something like that.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, come on, people. $11,000 project. 4 cities, editing, and you were able to pull a 6,500 to 7 grand project.
Yeah, and the thing is,
profit at the end
and
of
the
it.
thing is, because of the way that I priced it, where it was like, and where I was willing to, because I had priced it like per shoot per city, because that gave them, I think the reason I was able to land the project, or part of the reason I was able to land the project, is because when we discussed the proposal, they were like, well, if we don't shoot all the interviews, will the price come down? And I was like, yeah, the price will, like the price will adjust.
They were clearly price sensitive, but at the end of the day, look, I think it comes down to execution, because you could have done that 2 different ways, right? You could have flown to all these cities, you could have filmed them yourself. Sure, you save money on the money that you paid, but now you have travel expenses.
Like, I made it clear to them that they were saving money.
Yeah.
It was like, I was like, yeah, if you try to fly me to these cities, one, we're not gonna, like, I'm gonna be out of pocket for a day every time that I fly, where you're not gonna be able to contact me. You're not gonna know what's going on, and then, like, it's gonna cost you. Like, if they had tried to fly me, it would have been 20 grand plus.
Yeah, because you have to pay travel day, you have to pay production. Well, whether you charge them or not, indirectly, you are charging them.
Yeah.
So travel day, then production day, maybe even another travel. Well, probably not, because 2 hour shoot, you could fly back the same day. But then also, you have you save on the production cost, but now you may need an assistant or whatever to bring with you locally. Again, you're still doing that work anyway. For this project, it seems
I would
like,
have hired an assistant in each city.
so that's what I'm saying. So you end up doing the same
it
amount of effort.
probably would have been like 22 to 25 grand if they had tried to fly me out.
Exactly.
To each city.
Now the advantage to client, now some would be like, yes, if the client could afford it, it would have been better, because the video would have been fully consistent with, because it's your footage, it's everything controlled by you. But if their budget is 11 grand, then your method is better, because clients get something in their budget and it still looks great, because red footage.
They were
Sony
super
footage,
happy.
yeah,
They gave me great feedback.
And that's incredible, right? And that's what I want people to know, because that's the type of gigs we all want to be doing. Because, just a breakdown of what you can do, what you can charge, what you can get away with. Before we go, I can't believe it's been 2 hours, man. We could talk for another 2 easily.
Hey, you know how mean you get.
Yeah, no, we can. Well, I was just saying, we've had multiple of these podcasts indirectly, of the conversations we get. No, I had to force you to get in there. We already started talking before we even sat down. And it was already, game on. And that's why I love talking to you, because I think we both care about our craft, but at the same time we also care about the business side of it. And it's just so great to have these conversations, because like I said, you learn from each other. I would have never added, I'm telling it here publicly, that makeup artist, the check boxes, because to me that was not right. But until I talked to you and I had to hear that other perspective, I'm like, yeah, it makes sense for the client, it makes sense for me, because there's 0 effort. I just have to do it, and it's not taking away from the client experience like I initially thought. And it's things like that. I'm just saying, having conversations is how you level up. So before we go, I wanted to ask you one other question. What are your currently? And I know you have a formula, obviously, of charging, but I want people to understand, how do you come up with your rate? So if somebody calls you, whether it's local or whatever.
Yeah. So basically, my prices. So my production is where I make the bulk of my money when I'm doing a project for somebody. And so to come up with the production rate, I base it off of a day rate, but I don't charge day rates. So like you said, it's a formula. So if I was going to be charging just a straight day rate to somebody, I'd want at least $1,250 a day. I believe, actually, it's 2025. It should probably go up to $1,500. It's gone up over the years.
Yeah, up your rate. Right. But anyway.
Yeah. So.
But I want to know that unique structure. I really liked it the way you explained it. Again, I don't do it this way, but I want people to hear the other way.
You start with your day rate, whatever your day rate is. Just for ease's sake, we'll say the day rate is $1,000. So what I charge people to come out and shoot is I charge them a base price, which will be like 40% of the day rate. So that means if it's $1,000, that means I'm not leaving the house for less than $400. And that's just for the first hour of service plus my equipment, my basic set of equipment, not extras, not bells and whistles, like the basic set of equipment that I would bring out to minimally be able to do a video. That'll be whatever it is for you, whatever that is for you. Like for me, that's my 2 cameras, that's a 3-point lighting kit, and basic audio. So that's what they get for $400 for 1 hour. Then the rest of that $1,000 day rate gets divided by 7. and that's the hourly rate that you charge for the rest of the hours in a day. Like I base it on an 8-hour day. I know a lot of film productions, they base on a 12-hour day, or if you're in AV, they base things on a 10-hour day. I just want to do a regular work day. So we gonna do 8 hours. And then depending on how you want to charge, if you go past 8 hours on a shoot day, you can charge time and a half if you want, or you can just charge the straight hourly. Just for simplicity's sake, I don't do time and a half. I know that's probably a mistake, but I'm lazy.
But that's okay. Hey, it works.
Just being honest. And so that'll be like the bulk of the production costs. The way that I have then added on to that is I started adding pre-production fees, which is like your meetings, logistics planning, all those tasks that you have to do in planning the shoot, which a lot of us forget to charge for, especially when you're first starting out. Most of us are not charging pre-production. You need to charge for pre-production, especially when you're getting these projects that require multiple meetings and back and forth and lots of planning. Like you need to be charging for pre-production, and you need to put a limit on it as well. So like usually my minimum pre-production fee is $500, and that's for like a light project, a project that doesn't really require me to do a whole lot of planning. Charge $500. That's including my client meetings, back and forth calls, emails, and stuff. And I say there's a limit of 5 hours that I'm gonna put into this. Then I also usually charge a media and storage fee, because if you're like me, or you're like Bindra, or you're like anybody smart, you hardly ever delete anything. And so I tell clients,
your data is money.
But I tell clients, this fee is for the memory cards, it's for the hard drives, and it guarantees that I will keep your content for at least 6 months. I don't guarantee anything past that. I still have stuff from 5 years ago, but I don't
can't guarantee it. Yes.
I don't guarantee that. I said, like, if
they
somebody
can pay a premium if they want to guarantee.
Right. If somebody calls me up, I probably still have it. And I'm not perfect. There are a couple of hard drives that have gone missing in the last
follow the
4 or 5
3-2-1
years.
backup rule. Look up if somebody doesn't know. I would highly recommend doing that. Yeah, so you don't lose
but I'm
footage.
not perfect. I don't have a fancy NAS like Bindra and some folks do. So there's a couple of hard
We
drives
gotta
that have
level you
had
up on that.
hey,
Hey, somewhere I can help you.
if I can get the revenue to get it, I will get it.
Let's do it. Let's do it. 2025 is the year. We're gonna up our revenue.
So like there have been in the last 4 or 5 years, there are a couple hard drives that have gone missing. One hard drive crashed. That was a sad day. But most of the stuff I've still got. And then, you know, it's your company. You can charge whatever you want as long as you can get them to pay.
And here's the perspective I wanted to quickly give people. Look, in my way, I do, like I said, pricing either. Here's a price, you know, boutique price, whatever, once I figure out the offer and the solution. Or I give, if still unknowns, I'll give them a good, better, best option. You know, people are going to pick better. That's just typically how it works. But I love your strategy because how you explained it to me. Once you now start to add, I love how you break down. Once you start to add these numbers, you'll realize that you're rarely charging people $400. That's just, and again, that was just an example anyway. But the idea is your base rate is low, but nobody's usually hiring you for 1 hour. And then the advantage is you can then take shoots where you are just out for an hour or two if you want to. But then typically when you add a half a day or more, you end up actually making more money than you would have had you just made a half to a full day rate. Because now, once you add up the formula, right, it ends up being higher. Your half day rate, maybe 80%.
And the way that you really start leveling up the price is by adding crew members. Because, so I said my base rate or my day rate that I'm basing everything off of is $1,250, or for the example, we said $1,000. So your second crew member, now you add another 90% of a rate. So instead of $1,000 for 2 crew members, you're basing it off of $1,900. You can do the math, whatever 40% of 1,900 is,
and it starts to add up pretty quick.
And that's your base rate. So, and then the third person, you're giving them the third person for 80%. You're giving them the fourth person for 70%. I don't go past I don't go past that. Like some people, when they use the formula, as they add people, they keep going down by 10% until they get to 50. I'm like, I'm stopping at 70. I'm comfortable there. Let's do that. And
no, that's definitely great. So look at both options, calculate it, and see which one works out better for you. Alex, I would love to bring you back in season 2, continue this conversation. But this has been incredible. Before we go, if you want to tell people anything else or just share your Instagram or whatever, they can come follow you.
Yeah, if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's the Alex Minor, TheAlexMinor. Also, there's my company, I Am Media, EYEAMMEDIA. And then I'm also on LinkedIn, although not very much these days. I got to get that's one of the things I got to get back on this year is my social media game, because I've got so much BTS footage, cell phone footage, things that I could use to make content, and I'm just not. And that's one of the things that I got to get. I got to get my content game back right.
Well, you need to go and tell Alex on all the things he told and post comments. Post more, maybe we need to encourage you. I mean, they need to encourage me because I'm bad at it too. So I get it.
But yet you have managed to build a pretty nice business for yourself.
That's what I'm saying.
So that's another thing. You don't necessarily need to do all the social media things to build a thriving business, but it can help.
Yes, and that's my goal for this year. I'm working on it. I want to post more, be more active. So just because, like you said, it helps, and I have ignored that because it was just not the market that I was tapping into before. But why not, right? So yeah, please encourage both of us to post more, and hopefully you'll have more stuff to see from us. But otherwise, this has been a pleasure, sir. It's always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for coming. And like I said, until next time.
Hey, come back anytime.